Hello, and welcome to Music, Philosophy, and More with your host, John Henry Sheridan, and today's co host, Louis La Rocco, and our guest star, Josh Salant.
Hey,
So,
how's it going, guys?
How you doing?
hey,
I'm
hey,
good. How are you guys doing?
pretty good, pretty good. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Buckle in, grab their favorite beverage, and sit back and relax.
And listen to the
So,
wisdom.
yeah, listen to it, just pour forth, you know, Brooklyn wisdom. So just to say a little bit about myself, I'm a singer-songwriter based in Brooklyn. Louis La Rocco is a musician and all-around sound guy, currently based in Nashville, Tennessee. And Josh Salant is a musician and sound engineer and probably many other hats which we'll get to throughout the night, also based in Brooklyn. And we're friends and we go back a ways, so it's going to be fun to just kind of dig into Josh's perspective on music and his personal life philosophy, and then throughout it we'll kind of go into many sidebars of anecdotes and stories and what have you. So it's going to be a hang. So Lou, if you could maybe say a few words while Josh and I get a watch party started.
Yeah, man, definitely. So, I'll point one thing out for everyone listening, which was kind of a good fun fact. We were averaging out how long we had actually all known each other, and it came up to around 25 years between me and John, and about 15 years between me and Josh, and we've all worked together on numerous projects. Me and Josh currently work as a team, as a production team on some projects. He runs a great recording studio out of Brooklyn, New York, called Salant Sound Studios. And
Thank you.
Tonight, also based in Brooklyn.
uh,
That's what happens when you start a watch party. Okay.
yeah, and John himself has a few productions done from Josh as well. So we are all active co-workers with each other, and yeah, we date back quite a while ago. So
Yeah.
I remember when you first started. When I think I was working at Sam Ash at the time when I met you, and I think you had the studio up for maybe like a year, or you were building it very slowly. And
Yeah.
man, that goes back. Like, and it's
Yeah.
great that we're still relevant, right?
Yeah. It's great that we still are lucky enough to work in a business where we could have some fun while we work.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely. I mean, there are a lot of days where it is definitely work,
Oh,
but
yeah.
for the most part, it's never as work as actually like hands-on manual labor work. You know.
Oh, yes. Totally.
At the end of the day, we get to nerd out and mess with waveforms and mixing and plugins, and there's always new toys.
Play with our toys, man. That's one of the most fun parts about the job, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
for us scatterbrainers, it's the peak because
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
day's the same. Everything constantly switches up. You always have a different grouping or a different plugin you just bought last night, or someone comes in with an instrument you've never seen before.
Yep. Yep. Totally. But the best part about it is you work with different people and with different aesthetics and different visions,
Yeah.
and that's, to me, I don't know, my thing these days is I try to just have the gear and the engineering part almost on. I don't want to say autopilot, but I just want to have a lot of my tools accessible so I can really focus on the music and focus on really what the musicians want to what they want to see from their project. So I always find that it's like the most fun and challenging part is the creative aspect and not so much the
Mm-hmm.
technical.
So you work with a lot of singer songwriters, right? Like
Yeah,
ground up writing.
I mainly work with like four piece bands, trios, 4-piece bands, 5-piece bands. And there's usually in each band there's usually like one like brainchild. There's somebody somebody who's leading the vision, and with the rest of the guys, they try to come out with the best music they can. And I just try to work with that person one on one, and of course, every band is a collection of ideas and a collection of people that have their own feelings and opinions. So we try to incorporate everything so we have one collective vision, and we can just get, make the best sounding stuff that we would listen to ourselves.
Yeah. I really got to mention too, like what's impressive about it, especially knowing you this almost this entire time from the beginning to now, is that you've consistently been building and working on the studio like a constant work in progress. Not like usually when somebody just
Totally.
sets up an area and then they just leave it. Like they'll start with everything in a certain place, and it seems like you've kind of evolved. Like you've figured out where in the room certain things work the best and how to shut them off from everything else, and like all through like experience, because your recordings have noticeably gotten better. Like,
oh, thank you, man.
Over time. And oh man,
yeah.
Dude, the last few years, the stuff you've sent out, it sounds really good.
Thank you, man. Well, you know what I realized, that the biggest work in progress is me. I try to get new ideas. I of course your ears change in this business. What you thought might have sounded great 10 years ago, you listen to it with 10 years of experience, and your ears are like, ooh, I used to mix really bright, or I used to mix really dark, or you just get different ideas. So I just like to crank the radio and drive with the windows down, and I like that. I like that scenario the best, where I feel like the sound is just, it's not in a box, it's escaping, and it's all around you, and you can really focus on things, and you could make really smart decisions from how other people work. Like, oh, the snare sound on that Bob Seger record is like killer. How do I do that? Okay, it's probably this, it's probably that. You get the wheels turning, and then you try out all the variables and see what works the best.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You're a big Bob Seger fan? Is that why you thought of him first?
I'm a big classic rock fan in general. I just love all of it, because I feel like, especially back then, from the beginning of time of recorded music, but especially like in the 60s and the 70s and 80s, I feel like they really had great sonics with very little gear, and very like the tech was not nearly as up to date as it is now, but the engineers were just incredible. So it really depended on what they would do and how they would use the tools. So I feel like I try to take that approach today. You can have a million pieces of software, a million plugins, you could have hundreds of tracks on your projects, but I feel like if you really can't do it with like 8 tracks or 16 tracks, you might be slowly falling into the deep end.
So I think now that we've updated where you're at this point, I think it's time to do a rewind. I think John's ready. We're gonna dig into you.
All right. Yeah. Great. Thanks, Lou, for being the ideal co-host and taking it off exactly where I left off. Fluid. And Josh, thank you for just being very flexible and bouncing right along.
Thank you guys for having me on your show. It's a lot of fun, and I know it's just going to grow and grow and grow.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I think, like you said, as long as it's fun, then people will want to listen, and then I'll want to continue. And
totally.
Yeah, and so without further ado, I'd like to dig into some questions about your life, Josh.
Cool.
You ever hear that? Remember when we were younger, there was this like, "This is your life" thing, like, and all of a sudden, I don't know, I think there's a TV show, and like they sit you down, they play like a video about your life, like a slideshow video. I don't know if it came out in the 60s, 70s. There was something about, there was this show. And anyway, I kind of want to do that on this show in general, is just like show people their lives by asking them to describe it to us. So I'm going to start uh, I'm going to start going down a musical journey here. So Josh, can you remember what it was that got you into enjoying music in the first place?
I I come from. I have a lot of musicians in my family. My grandmother was a concert pianist, and she used to play for like dance companies, and she played on the radio. This is going back to like probably like the 30s and 40s.
Really?
So
Hmm.
so that was a big influence in my dad's household. So my dad's a musician. He told me one of his earliest memories in music was like plucking the strings of the piano, like plucking the low strings and being like, wow, listen to how they resonate. So I feel like, the fact that my dad's a musician, he used to kind of have all the instruments laying around, the guitars and some drums and flutes and some basses and stuff. So I feel like me and my brother kind of snuck around and started playing them. He kind of left them there. He didn't really force us to play. He just kind of left them, and if we picked it up, we would. So I feel like it's kind of like it's just always been in my household, and just listening to the radio. My dad was listening to a lot of NEW back when that was around on the radio, and of course later Q1043, and that stuff's really, it's just ingrained in my brain from when I was a little kid.
Wow. Cool. So I didn't know that your grandmother had a musical background, that she was even on the radio. That's pretty special. And is this your paternal grandmother?
Yeah.
Wow. So that, and because I know your dad plays some music as well, and so that he kind of just gave you this kind of playground of musical things, musical instruments or
Yeah.
environment, kind of, right? That,
Yeah.
and it allowed you and your brother to explore, well, without any pressure, really.
Yeah. Like when I used to work at the music store, a lot of parents would be like, listen, I want to buy my kid this, but he better take lessons. And
Right.
already it's
Hmm.
kind of like the kid's like, oh, I got something I have to do. Like,
There's
so I would
Yeah.
pressure.
say, yeah, it's pressure. And so I would say like, they could take lessons. I could find you a good teacher or whatever, but they kind of, they should try to learn the songs that they like, and they should play on their own, and give them a little time alone with the instrument. It doesn't have to be this strict schedule. We all know kids are like so swamped with extracurriculars these days that it's like, do they need one extra thing that their parents are forcing down their throat? Like, no, it
Hmm.
should just be fun.
I totally hear you on that, and it's cool that your dad had that sort of loose approach with you, and certainly what I aspire to with my own son. He's surrounded by music every day, but my approach is almost like I'd rather kind of tempt him to not do it. Not like
Yeah,
tell him he shouldn't do it, certainly not, but almost like the opposite of pressure, so that he kind of begs me to do it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well, it's weird. It's weird with modern kids, and I'll kind of lump myself in that category too, because when I was a kid, I would play video games all day. And my dad would be like, "Oh, you're playing video games," like,
Mm.
and now video games have kind of, I mean, not the games themselves, but getting into tech at that early age and computers and stuff like that, it's become a very vital part of my life. And even like the little skills you learn of just being exposed to it as a kid. So I feel like what I'm saying is that I feel like kids these days, they have a different approach to how they work on music and how they express themselves. So I find that it's great to have everything around, because they can approach it any way they want. If they want to work on the tech side, they could do that. If they want to work on the building side, like let's say they want to build guitars, they could do that. They want to play guitars, they could play guitars. They want to, it's the sky's the limit. And I think it's a good time to be alive.
That's very similar to the way I got into things too. When me and John were speaking, was just the fact that we had tape recorders around the house, and because I had to share the TV with my brothers, and they wouldn't let me use it all the time, and it kind of led me in a very similar situation. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And your brother's very high level as well.
Yeah, well,
Hmm.
he's been playing guitar for like I would say close to 25 years now, and he's one of those guys that just like it's it's
There
can
he
you hear
is.
me?
Yeah, yeah. Your
You're
mic
back.
cam
Yeah.
was off, then you're back. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I got a call. Yeah, so you know, he's one of those guys that he studies the not only the technical side of playing guitar, but he's really ingrained into the theory and the philosophy of guitar. So it's like he's kind of like a scientist of guitar. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Yeah, cool.
But he doesn't write songs really.
Oh no.
You know, and I don't really write songs. So we,
Hmm.
you know, we've worked together a million times on projects, and we always need a songwriter. We can't just be like, all right, here's the song. I wish that
Hmm.
was the case, but it's just not the way it is.
That's interesting. So I'd just like to take a second just to send some shout outs on my end. I was going to just name some people here. Hey, hello, Jonathan Strelnick, Anna, Eddie Hager, Tom Scuderi, Lonnie Friedland, Uvita, Marianne, Tony, and Daniel. Is Daniel, are you listening from the other side of the planet right now, or is Daniel in Brooklyn?
He's in New Zealand.
Okay, so hey, New
Oh, yeah.
Zealand. Thank you for making the time. I got Max Christopher joined, Chris Caragliano, Lou. Anyone on your end? Sandra Duarte,
Uh, I
Darlene.
I did get a message from Ron, so it's good that
Hmm.
he's here. He texted me on the phone, and I know that before we went live, he asked me when we were going on since we were a couple of minutes late, but
Yeah.
technical difficulties. And
Yes.
but yeah, other than that, I can't really see on my side. I just see live and an I that says 14. So
Okay. Cool.
we
Yeah,
do have a
that's
few
one of the
watchers.
nice things about the watch party is you getting to see who is joining. So yeah, Daniel says, "Damn right, New Zealand." Yeah. So that's pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. Uh,
Mhm.
Daniel, what time is it there? I'm curious. Maybe it's similar to Japan, I guess, 13 hours or something.
And now
Um,
Austin just popped in. What's going on, Austin?
nice,
Yeah, we got a few people popping. See, we asked for them, and they put their hands up.
nice, nice. And
Yeah.
yeah,
We're
and
here.
now Lonnie and Daniel are saying hi to each other, so that's cool. We got a mini reunion here of some old friends. um, so next question, Josh, you ready?
Yeah.
So so yeah, Lonnie says hi everyone. What's up, Danny?
Hey, what's up, Lonnie?
Yep.
Long time no see, man. Hope to see you soon.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so what were some of your favorite bands growing up? I know we touched on this last night, but for it's a new show, it's fresh,
Yeah.
so let us know.
I would say some of my favorite bands are like Pink Floyd, Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix Experience was a big one, Black Sabbath, AC/DC. Um, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. But basically, any classic rock, The Doors, um,
Madonna.
Madonna, yeah, Madonna with those serious bass synth bass lines. Hell yeah. Yeah, but yeah. But I also like a lot of like 90s American metal, like Pantera and Megadeth and Slayer. I like a lot of progressive rock and progressive metal. Like I love Jethro Tull. I love Opeth as one of like the newer metal bands and stuff. Um, so yeah, it just runs the gamut. But I would say definitely anything classic rock, anything that was done in the 60s and 70s and 80s. Some,
Hmm.
some of my biggest influences.
Cool. And I know Red Hot Chili Peppers is very important to you. Did you? I don't know if you mentioned
Red
them
Hot
just now.
Chili Peppers, yeah, that's like one of my first big inspirations. I was watching the By the Way music video when I was on vacation in Ocean City, Maryland. We never had cable growing up, so we used to watch the VH1 Top 10 in the mornings. And I saw the Chili Pepper video, and I just loved the camaraderie between the bandmates. And I said, "Oh, I think I can do that. I kind of want that." And it just kind of worked out that way.
Cool.
So guys, we may have hit a technical problem right now. It's actually telling me that it's having a problem playing the video, so we may have to actually redo this.
Okay, well we could go out and go back in if you
Mhm.
guys are into that.
Yeah, I'm seeing people joining, but yeah, I don't know.
We're frozen.
Let me. Oh, really? Okay, I'm refreshing here. Oh, just to let you know what's going on here. Yeah, I see that we froze over there. Oh wait, no, we're moving.
We are. Do this.
On my
Oh.
Okay,
computer.
well we could go out.
Okay, we're back. All right.
Okay, Daniel's letting us know that our video is fine.
Cool.
Oh, thanks, Dan.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thanks,
man.
Dan.
Dr. Dan coming in a clutch as usual.
That's right, Dr. Dan.
I got a funny story with Dan Douglas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was playing with my band Salvage at Third Rail, which was the loading dock for Lemore's, which was an all concrete, tiny little room. But it was cool because they used to have shows there, and I didn't know that I was supposed to bring an amp, and I was a bass player without an amp, and luckily Dan Douglas was the sweetest guy in the world as usual, and I said, "Hey man, would it be possible to borrow your amp?" And he's like, "Of course, dude. Just use it." And I always remember that because I was 15, and it was one of my earliest memories with like a real bass player, you know. And I'll never forget it. So thanks, Dan.
Wow. That's pretty cool. And thank you everyone for letting us know. I appreciate the feedback. We got Lonnie, Dan, John Holst, and Marie. Were all telling us that our video is fine. So people are paying attention and they're responding. Thanks, guys. So okay, Lou, anything you want to add about favorite bands growing up that we touched on that kind of jumped up for you just now?
Definitely Pantera.
Yeah.
That was gigantic to me. Dimebag Darrell was probably my favorite guitar player for probably about 10 years, 12 years straight. He's still in the top 5 for me, or top 3 even. Yeah, he was so influential over everything I did on guitar. I think the only thing that I had solid that a lot of other people were like impressed by with me was the squealing. Because I think I literally sat and practiced squealing for hours and hours and hours every day.
And Lou, all your whammy work. All your whammy work. That is amazing.
Oh, thank you. That's a lot of Tom Morello. It is definitely a lot of Dimebag though. He did a lot of those Floyd Rose dump squeals.
Yeah.
Like when you kind of flick the string on the 3rd fret and then catch it with a natural harmonic and pull up. And
Yeah,
I had to get out of that habit because I hated Floyd Roses so bad.
Yeah, they're definitely tricky.
So once I started buying real guitars, which are any guitar that does not have a Floyd Rose, I had to get the whammy to do the effect. So, but yeah, that jumped out at me pretty quick.
Yeah, I remember Lou was quite good at the squeal to the point of, being obnoxious. There's no other way to say it. Like I think you purposely put tons of squeals in every song.
Yep.
Like in the Starry days, probably Mr. Jack Frost too.
All right, Zach Wild.
There was a Cadence song that was specifically just squeals.
Yeah, you're definitely good at that. I was pretty good with squeals, but I remember you were like really right on it. Yeah, I think you and Mike Barish probably had squeal contests. I imagine.
Yes, yeah, we used to sit in his room sometimes on those really terrible Boss pedals. What was it? It wasn't the heavy metal pedal. It was
Metal Zone.
It was a Metal Zone, yes. And we just used to sit there and go back and forth nonstop, trying it with different picks. We'd use those thick Dunlop bass picks. Then we'd go to like the really thin ones, and yeah, squeal all day. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, Josh. Next question. Just want to keep on letting people know that we're seeing them. John Holst says, "What's up, all?" And Lonnie said, "If Josh was 15, was Danny 6?" That's the question.
No, no. Danny was probably maybe 20.
Okay, so he was
But
older than you.
maybe a little, maybe a little. I don't know what age gap we are apart, but I know it was a couple years older. He seemed like the wisest bass person to me, and I said, "Oh, this is what I have to do. This guy knows what he's doing."
Cool. That's great. That's great, man. All right, moving right along. So, if you don't mind, and of course, if you feel like not naming any names, that's always great. I respect that. If you feel people don't mind their names being mentioned, what were the names of your first 2 or 3 bands, if you want to say it, and what years were they active? And I have
Yeah,
more questions along that line, but go ahead.
yeah, I would say my first one of my first bands was Name Your Poison with my brother, my buddy Howie, and my buddy Bill, all from Canarsie, all in the neighborhood, a few blocks away from each other. Thrash metal. That was probably we were probably active from like I want to say like maybe 2002 to 2006, something like that.
I just want to verify. You said in Canarsie?
Yeah, Canarsie.
Where is Canarsie?
It's there used to be an expression about Canarsie. Oh, all the way from here to Canarsie, which means Canarsie is really far away.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. And Marine Park's pretty far away too. Most people don't even know what it is. At least people kind of heard Canarsie.
Did you say,
yeah.
Did you say Marine Park?
Yeah, Marine Park.
Yeah. That's
Marine
the thing.
Park to Canarsie.
I've been back in the country from from abroad long enough. My broken accent's creeping back.
Oh yeah, well of course. The park is strong. The park accent's strong.
It never
Yeah.
goes away.
No.
No matter how hard you try, it doesn't go away.
I love it too.
It does dilute a little bit, but it's there. So Josh, name your poison, and then what was maybe another? Actually, no. If you want to tell us, where did they rehearse? Name your poison. Where'd you perform? How'd you promote? Just kind of like to paint the picture of what it was like at that time.
Yeah, we rehearsed at my house. I remember I was playing bass at first, so it was my brother's. It was my dad's old amp, Fender Twin Reverb. My brother was playing metal through it, which was an interesting choice at the time. Probably still is an interesting choice. And I had my little bass amp, my little practice bass amp, and I was talking to my dad one day, and I said, I really want to kind of learn how to play the drums. And he goes, "Oh, I got a drum set in the attic." And I said, "No way." And he goes, "Yeah, it's going to need some pieces, but let's bring it down and we'll see what it needs." So we brought it down. We found out what it needed. It needed like a kick pedal, maybe a couple new heads. So we set up the drums in the room.
Wow.
Then I started having rehearsals in my basement.
Wow.
So that's a slippery slope, because the second you start having rehearsals in the basement, then bands have a tendency to go, "Wow, we should record this." So it was Howie's first idea to just bring his boombox and just record everything on the boombox.
Mm-hmm.
This is before smartphones and easy, recording, at a push of a button. So we record the basic song on a boombox, and then he had another boombox where he would play the instrumentals from the first boombox out loud, through the speakers, and have it pick up in the other boombox, and then he'd sing on top of it. So he did like some multi-track. So the rehearsal studio turned into a recording studio very fast. As crude as it was.
That's great, man. That's very, very much same thing happened in my basement. That's awesome.
Right?
And I have a lot of those tapes, and actually I could show you those tapes not far. I call them my archives. So that's what they are, and they're actually, of course, in those days, I'm sure you wish the sound quality was better, right? And because you're comparing it to your favorite bands. But when I listen to those now, it's a very precious sound that just you cannot find anywhere else, right? And no one's going to go create tapes like that, because you got to get those guys together and the vibe and all. So the sound that's captured on those tapes is very precious. You can't find it anywhere else.
It has a charm.
Oh yeah.
It has a charm, and it's so raw, and it's one of those things. It kind of dates back to the way recordings were made in the past, where, you know, if you wanted it to sound good, you had to play it. You had to play it well.
Yeah.
And you know, you can't hide your mistakes. If you know, if you're soloing out of key, it is cripplingly apparent. You know?
Oh, and punching in and out wasn't that easy either. Like waiting for that split second that's open.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that was not
man.
easy.
I feel that's helped me though a lot, and it's probably helped all of us, because I mean, I'm one of those guys that I like to do like the long drum take, and just try to really nail the take from start to finish if I can. Of course, if I got to punch a couple things, I'll punch them. But there's something about just capturing that performance in that moment in time, the energy, that I feel like it feels better. You know, with the little slight variations in tempo, you know, whatever you feel, whatever you know, as long as it's acceptable. But there's a charm to it,
you know,
playing well. And
you know, the funny thing too is, like, I was thinking about this the other day. I was working on a piece that I was doing, and I was playing a lot with the keyboard. And when I didn't put the metronome on, it didn't bother me. But then the second I looked at the grid, and then I started quantizing, I couldn't stop quantizing. And I started thinking about back then when we, you know, even if we use the click track, it's like you don't see it on a screen the same way you do now. You'll listen to it and go, oh, that sounds good, that tracks. And it retains a lot of the feel of the song. Whereas now it's almost like an addiction or a necessity that you look at Logic or Pro Tools, you see the grid, and you're like, that kick drum sounds good, but it's not on the line. And it became so visual. I know.
Engine eyes, they call it. Engine eyes. Instead of engineers, you're engine eyes.
That makes sense, man.
And it's you know, of course I didn't coin that phrase. I think the guy who really coined it was Mixer Man. But it's true. It's like, so you know what? I have a hack now for it. I just turn off my monitors. I turn off my screens and I listen. And this way I'm taking my eyes completely out of the equation. And I just try to see, is it on? Is it off? Is it early? Is it late?
Is that the Joe Carroll trick where you bring the mouse all the way to the bottom left of the screen and then it just puts it into the screensaver? Because I did that as well.
I mean, you could do that. You could totally do that. I usually because my monitors, I just have on and off buttons on them. So I just turn them off. Because, you know, because I have a tendency to, as soon as I want to fix something, I move the mouse and then I'm back. So I kind of make it a physical thing where I got to.
You have to get up and you have to do it. Or you're treating it like tape.
Yeah, I try to listen as much as I listen as much as I can, and you'll be surprised. I mean, there's so many things that we see, like, you know, not to get so technical, but, you know, you can go crazy with parameters and graphs look funny and EQ curves look funny, but it doesn't matter what they look like. It matters what they sound like, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So.
Cool. Yeah, I was just thinking, just to add briefly to that, you know, there's this, like, I don't even know if this is conspiracy theory or if this is just common sense, but there's definitely a sense that we're becoming kind of part android, you know, like like part robot or whatever. Because if you think about it, how do you feel when you're not around your phone or your computer for more than a day or more than? Don't you feel a little bit vulnerable? Like, wait, I can't answer any question in the world. I have to use my own intelligence to answer the question, my own knowledge. You know, we have this like sense that we know everything because we could look it up in Google and give you the answer, but we don't. That's not us, you know.
Phones have destroyed our memory.
I totally agree. I think we're part Android for sure.
I mean, when we were younger, how many phone numbers we had memorized, and nobody has numbers memorized at all anymore. Like, it's almost impossible to retain that 7-number combination now. That it's like, and back when we had beepers, we were even able to identify those 7 numbers. Like, we'd see a particular pattern and go, "Oh, that's Mike," or like, we'd at least still be able to recognize it. Now we don't even retain anything.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say it's good or bad, really, but it's definitely something to be aware of, because I'd rather be a human than a robot. Actually, I wrote a children's song called "I'm Not a Robot."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
it's good.
And Daniel Douglas just pointed out there's something called Donna, Haraway's The Cyborg Manifesto, written
Mm.
in written in 1985. So this
Ooh.
has long been on the way, you know.
Saw it coming.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
even science fiction in the 50s, Ray Bradbury and people like that were writing about stuff not that far off.
I I always joke around. I say, a Terminator had it right. Skynet is real, and they will take over the world. You know,
Yeah.
but that's up to you if you want to believe that or not.
I don't know if you want
Well,
to believe it.
no, yeah, no, definitely don't want to believe it. But when what did Arnold Schwarzenegger say when he was approached about starring in a movie about classical music? Lou, any ideas?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
He said, "I'll be back."
Oh God. Oh man.
That's good.
I feel like my
That's
back
good.
hurts after that. I gotta stretch a little.
Listen, you gotta listen. He's gotta perfect his dad jokes. Now's the
Right.
time.
This is important. It's an important
Woo!
period for me.
That was tough.
All right,
Like,
moving on right along. Okay, so Josh, we could go on unless you want to tell us about maybe another band, early band that or my next question is it possible to tell us how many bands you've been in? So you could pick one and tell us a little bit more about a different band, or tell us how many bands you've been
yeah.
in, something along those lines.
Well, I've been in a lot of bands that have played in New York and stuff, but I've only been in a couple bands that have gone on the road. So I guess I'll count that as like the next stage of my life that I didn't ever really expect to happen, where
Mhm.
you travel, play music, and you travel. So I used to play in a Russian band called Mobius with my brother and my some buddies from high school, and the band leader, he was from San Francisco, and he moved here. We had a lot of fun. We used to play California. We used to play Boston. We used to play. I mean, we used to play everywhere. We used to, it was just that was a cool experience. And now I'm in 3 bands right now, but one of my bands, we've been hitting Canada. We've been going to Vermont, and we've been going down to like Maryland, and so we've been trying to branch out.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say like those two bands, like the ones that we go on the road with. I feel like it's important to me because it's like you never bond with people closer than when you're on the road with them.
Sure.
Because when you go to a new town, there's only 2 things you have in common. You have each other, the bandmates themselves, and the set. You all know the set. You don't know what's going to happen at the venue. You don't know if they're going to like you. You don't know if anybody's going to be there. You don't know if you're going to be able to park. There's a million variables when you travel. But I find that when, it just brings the bands together. Like, well, at least we know each other,
Yeah, right. I'm sure that many bonds were formed through those hardships and the ups and downs of that type of life.
Yeah, and there's definitely ups and downs, but mainly ups. I mean, the way I think about it, it's like a vacation with a purpose.
Especially when you're going up a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, you guys are.
There's ups and downs.
I know
right,
that
John?
story. You guys
Right.
You guys were going up a mountain. Yeah, that must have been scary, huh, Lou?
They learned something about me that day.
Oh yeah. Right. So. Right. Yeah. So I'll just paint the story a
I
little
don't go
bit.
up mountains.
So we're in California, right?
Yep.
And Mount Shasta, I believe, was that where we were?
That was the mountain.
Yeah, going up Mount Shasta, kind of a legendary mountain. And I don't know, my memory is something like 7,000 feet. It could be 15,000. I don't know. It was a very high mountain. And we got to a certain point. I don't know when, but Lou just decided to let us know that he had to abandon ship. And he demanded to get out. And I believe our bassist was driving, but he wasn't driving too fast, right? It wasn't. I didn't feel like we were going to fly off the mountain, but Lewis said, "Let me out now and go on without me. I'm not getting back on until you go down the mountain." And we went up quite a bit longer. We went high enough that we actually were playing in the snow at in July or something like that. There was snow up there. Yeah.
Wow,
That was
that is cool.
that was absolutely horrifying. That had been the first time I've ever gone like that type of altitude. I mean, I kind of got used to it this last time that I spent some extended time in Salt Lake City, but yeah, you know what it was like the whole time we were going up, the road was at least inward of the mountain enough that the trees were blocking how high you can actually see you were. So we
Hmm.
hit a point, and I remember that all the native people from the area were flying down the other side of the street going really fast. We weren't going that quick because I think TJ was being a little extra guarded
Right.
because there were no guardrails. I don't know how people live like that. And
I
they're
know.
coming down 50, and I just remember like the tree line stopped, and then all we saw was water underneath. Like there must have been
Wow.
a lake or something, and I just I couldn't do it. That was it. Like something flicked, and I was like, "That's it. Let me out." And yeah, and fun fact was that the mountain that I was staring at the whole time from that cliff you guys left me on, that was actually Mount St. Helen, and it looked like it was right there.
Wow.
So there was another snow-capped mountain. It was actually Washington, and that's what I was seeing from where I was sitting. And believe me, I looked at it for a while.
Hmm. And Mount St.
See,
Helens.
now I would be afraid. I'd be afraid that they wouldn't be able to find me if I jumped ship.
Right.
I didn't
You
care.
know, you didn't
Yeah,
care.
you would
See,
think so,
I
right?
would be afraid. Like, what if I have to live here now?
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
I have my symbols. Can't eat those. I have about maybe 2 pairs of clean underwear.
Give me like 10 years. I'll be like a pygmy Bigfoot that gets like sightings. You're like, I
Yeah,
think that's
I
a
can see you
midget
doing
Bigfoot.
it too.
There's this hairy thing walking around. Pretty small.
Yeah. And Mount St.
I can see
Helens.
you doing it.
Mount St. Helens is a volcano, right?
I believe so. A lot of them all, like Mount Shasta was technically too, I believe.
Think so.
A
Yeah.
lot of them you find out. And oh, what's that other one? The huge one in Middle America. It's like they discovered it was a super volcano a few years
Hmm.
back. Now it's public knowledge, but
Right.
most of them seem to be explosive.
I know. Mother Nature. My son has been talking a lot about volcanoes and Mars and stuff like that. Mars actually has some volcanoes that are much higher than Earth, even though it's a smaller planet. Like some volcanoes are 9 miles high on Mars, seven
Wow.
miles high. So
9 miles
Isn't
high.
Olympus Mons the highest cliff in our solar system, from what we know?
I think so, and that's on Mars, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's like that where the trench goes all the way around the planet, like it looks like an orange peel got pulled off. Like if you look
Hmm.
at it, how the bottom looks like it's a lot smaller. I think it's Olympus Mons, and I think it's absolutely gigantic, supposedly.
Yeah, yeah. I think that might be the 9 mile
Oh
high
wow.
one.
You guys know your geography.
Not
So
really.
Yeah, you guys are like pretty book smart.
yeah, I should be wearing my glasses, my nerd glasses right now.
Yeah.
No, I love reading, man. But I learned this from reading and from videos and documentaries. So Josh, would it be fair to say, and I really don't know the answer to this, I just feel like it's your game for it. Would it be fair to say that you were chasing the rock star dream for a good portion of your youth?
You know, I feel like I never really felt that way, but I was involved in a lot of small circles of friends. And I find that the more circles of friends you get involved with and you play music with and you bond with, they all converge and they all become one big circle of friends where everybody knows everybody and a scene is created, you know. And I feel like I was lucky kind of by happenstance to kind of meet a lot of cool people. playing music in my 20s and, in my 30s, and I hope to meet a lot more great people along the way. So I feel like, I kind of have, I kind of feel like, if you chase that dream too hard, you might miss the presence, the present time, and just the fact that all your friends are your contemporaries and you're all coming up together. And I think that the dream is a collective dream and not an individual dream, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, that's makes a lot of sense to me now. I don't know that so many people that would have such a mature attitude kind of from the young age. But I when I asked the question, I did say I don't know the answer because you didn't really, even though you're clearly in the scene and been in so many bands and you've done touring and lots of recording and stuff, you never really seemed to me someone hell bent on quote unquote making it. You kind of seem to be enjoying the
No,
ride the whole time, you know?
yeah, I feel like, I feel like in a way, I feel like I have made it much farther than I thought I would, based on my own goals.
Hmm.
I'm happy to get in the room and work with a great songwriter and back them up. I find that to be a lot of fun, and I find it enriches my life. And I feel like there's nothing more fun than being in a rock band. It's just, I just can't think of anything in the world that has as much craziness, has as much like just unthinkable things happen, that I like to read a lot of rock and roll history books and stuff. I'm reading Keith Richards right now. And you
Hmm.
read these stories and you're like, that couldn't have happened. It happened.
Yep.
Stranger than fiction, man. So I find that I feel like I've achieved my dreams. I have achieved my dreams by not chasing a dream. I feel like I'm very happy where I am, and I'm happy to know all the great musicians that I know, and I'm looking forward to meeting more. And I feel like you have to really enjoy the ride. I mean, if you're chasing a dream, if your life isn't good enough, musically or professionally, then I don't know. Do what Michael Jackson did, and start with a man in the mirror and see what you can do, and see what you can do to make yourself be more fun to be around.
That's a good
Maybe
point.
doors will open up.
Speaking of legends, we got a shout out from Jimmy Brogna.
Jimmy,
Oh, cool. Hey, hey.
Jimmy's the dude.
And we
Jimmy
also
is
got
an
an oof.
encyclopedia of guitar information.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
As I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason why he's the big cheese.
Oh, he knew his stuff, man. He definitely did. I loved working for Jim. That was a lot of fun being there. That's how I ended up getting tied in with you, Josh. That was
Yeah,
it was a good experience. He was a good boss.
that's how I met everybody, man.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim, Chris Manacia, the late Joe Stewart, everybody, Mike Pedersen, Dave Foreman. These are the guys that were like rockers in the '70s, and they're like a wealth of knowledge. I mean, they're such mentors to me. I've learned so much from them by working at Ash, and I'll never forget the experiences. And I feel like it's I mean, sometimes you have to just shut up and you have to listen to what the professionals have to say, and that's watch and learn,
Speaking of David Foreman, he's the one who started my obsession that's still going today on Heil mics. Because if you remember,
Oh, yeah.
Sam Ash didn't carry them. Guitar Center has very low stock on those, and most people don't even talk about Heil. And I remember when I was looking to replace my Electro voice, Dave Foreman had come over to me and said, "Hey, have you ever heard about Heil mics?" And at the time, I think I was starting to do a podcast with Dave Schwinzicki and Bo and a few people on Avenue N. So I said, I want something that's really good for music and spoken word and broadcast. And he said, check out Heil. And now I have about 5 Heil microphones, and I absolutely swear by them.
Hey,
So yeah, we by working with those guys that had gone through that generation prior to us, or generation and a half, and all that acquired knowledge that they had, and especially from the time like you
yeah.
mentioned earlier,
I mean,
like
these guys,
come from tape machines and
and these guys would spend a lot of money. These guys would, I mean, these guys, the ability to record at home wasn't a couple $100 for them. It was like a couple
Right.
$1,000,
Hmm.
and this is like back, when things were even more expensive than they are. So, you gotta give them credit, and you have to,
mm-hmm.
I really respect them. I mean, another guy that worked at Ash was Stephen Gales, and Stephen Gales, he's a pro. I mean, you ask him a question and he'll be like, "Here, listen, here's the right answer, or here's my opinion, but this saved me a lot of headaches." And he just gives you a straight answer, and you think about it, and it's a learning experience. It was my school. It was a, there's no better teacher than experience. And when you work with guys as experienced as those guys, it's kind of hard, to not learn some really valuable stuff.
Sure. Yeah, it's a kind of like the importance of mentors, in a sense. We could have many mentors, um,
Yeah,
throughout life.
Well, the great part
yeah,
about Sam Ash as well, and I've worked for the competitor as well at this point. I've noticed that since companies like Guitar Center are a lot more corporate, they're a lot more of swinging doors, whereas a lot of the guys at Sam Ash are still there. And I know, John, you were definitely influenced to a certain extent from Tom Martin.
Oh yeah, Tom
All of
Martin.
us were.
Hmm. And
Chris
Mike
Gambaro.
Alexandrini.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
oh
And
yeah,
Mike
definitely.
Alexandrini. Yeah.
it wasn't exactly a rotating door, that store, and I feel like it's still not, even though I haven't been there in years. Like everybody was active in the business, and they actually liked their job because they really liked being around musical equipment. Remember when Tom used to like mix all the pedals together, and he'd put like 3 distortion pedals together, then throw a phaser, and he'd do these crazy things, and it was like awesome because he wasn't exactly trying to sell to us as much as like he was hanging out and we were learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was
Well, I
an
feel like the guys
exceptional
that come from that
character.
place are the best. The guys that are just like, hey, like I'm lucky to have a very nice mentor. He took me under his wing when I was like 19 years old. He's a recording engineer. He records a lot of big bands and stuff. His name is Peter Carl. He's a great guy. He's helped me. He's got me out of so many situations that I've had, technical, situations and stuff. And he's one of those guys. He's like, dude, what do you want to know? Because I've probably experienced it, and I've probably have gotten out of it. And I feel like those guys, the guys that want to teach and the guys that want to share their knowledge instead of hoard their knowledge, are the guys that really do well because they become a household name for the next generation.
Hmm.
So mentors are important, man, and
Yep.
they help us greatly.
Yeah, essential. So, next question. How many instruments do you play, Josh?
I play. Technically, I play two. I'm a bass player and I'm a drummer. And I started, noodling on guitar, just really more on the technical side, just to like in terms of tone, like just to help a lot of young guitar players when they come to the studio, they may not have a sound, so you kind of have to help them um, to achieve their sound. So I've been getting a lot into guitar tones lately, and stuff like that. But no, in terms of playing, it's just bass and drums, and I'm playing a lot more drums these days. It's just I feel like that's where I'm needed the most, because drummers are sometimes hard to find. That's it.
And what made you switch from bass to drums? I think you mentioned it, but was it just a preference?
Um, no, actually, I was learning both alongside, and I feel like um, they're both they're both they're both very helpful to each other. You know, it's good to learn. It's good to play both and learn both sides of the rhythm section and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just started playing drums as an necessity because there wasn't a lot of drummers around. And sometimes we wouldn't be able to have a rehearsal because the drummer wouldn't show up. So I said, all right, I'll learn these parts for now. And then I started playing, I started taking it a little bit more seriously. And I've been, you know, that's what I do basically now. I've been playing drums for like, I don't know, like a little bit over 15 years or so.
That helps me understand why I see you as a different drummer, because you didn't start with the drummer hat. You didn't choose to become a drummer from the go. You had a more of a musical, slightly deeper musical interest, and then out of necessity, like you said, you chose to become a drummer. So that gives you a different perspective. Also, with your audio engineering skills being very developed, you play to the song, you play for the greater purpose, you know, in my experience with you and how I've observed you, which is not easy to find. So I could understand that you saw a need and you fulfilled the need rather than you say, okay, I'm the drummer. You know, it's a very different,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
very different approach.
So
Yeah,
I
my
just
approach is to hold it down in the right place, you know, play the part that's needed and have a little fun without overplaying. You know, keep it interesting without um without taking away from the guitar players or especially the vocalists. You know, I'm not like a super flashy drummer. I'm a pocket drummer, but I just like to keep I try to compose the right parts, you know, to the best of the band's, um, you know, collective opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to mention real quick. I've been
Yeah.
checking into the chat. I want to
Mm-hmm.
say thanks to Jimmy. He wrote, "I've had the honor of working with so many great and talented people. I learned a lot from you guys too." So thanks, Jimmy.
Oh,
That's
thanks, Jimmy.
awesome.
Sweet.
Chris Bonica said, "Hey guys," and
Oh, hey,
Hey, what's
Chris.
up,
What's
Chris?
up, Chris?
I think there were two questions
Oh, nice. Good,
from
good.
Thomas. The
Mm-hmm.
one right now is, "Hey guys, do you think music today is good or better than yesterday's music?" And he had a previous question. I don't want to forget it and overlook it. Hey Josh, who were the drummers that influenced you?
Oh, that's a good one. So I would say in terms of today's music versus classic rock or you know music from the past, I feel like they both have their part in history, and it's just a different direction. So I wouldn't be able to compare them because there's so much modern music that I hear these days that I just go, wow, they're really like they're pushing the boundaries of the sonics of the songwriting, of the layers they're using, like, you know, all these great tools. So I find that to be a really amazing part. I also love classic recordings because for the small amount of tech that they had, they were able to make amazing products.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate that. And I find myself, I mean, like, just as a personal preference, I like to listen to classics, but I listen to both, and I find that in terms of drummers, I would say some of my biggest influences in drums is like Nick Mason from Pink Floyd, Mitch Mitchell from the Jimi Hendrix Experience, John Bonham, because he just lays it down really big and heavy, and he doesn't overplay. He just makes it really great. And I really love Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers because he's got a lot of energy and he's like a side man. You know, I always consider myself to be a side man. I'm not a songwriter. I'm not a band leader. I'm not a front man. So I'm a side man, and I really those guys and their playing really resonates with me.
Mm-hmm.
And the list goes on and on and on and on and on. But I would say that you know Nick Mason from Floyd, the way that he's like he's super laid back, and you know it's like it's really about the notes you don't play that matter. Then when somebody is just doing crazy chops and fills. It has its place. I'm not saying it doesn't, but there's something about when somebody lays it down and the part is composed to fit the music perfectly that just makes it stand out.
And it makes you move.
Yeah, it makes you move, and it's like a guy's doing his job, and a girl, I'm a guy or a girl drummer, whatever. They're doing their job, and they're not ruining anything. They're not taking away anything. They're just adding and making it full.
So we do have a quick question here, and this is perfect for you, Josh. So Jimmy asked if he has songs recorded on 2-inch tape, can that be transferred to digital tracks that could be manipulated in Logic?
Absolutely. I actually did that recently with my dad. My dad had some 1/4-inch recordings from the 50s, and he's like, "Hey, would you be able to turn this into a file?" I said, "Sure," and I just took an output. So basically, what you could do, Jimmy, without being crazy tech, I mean, if you know a studio that has a 2-inch tape machine, you could just take an output from that and record it stereo. Or if you have a multi-track tape and you have a multi-track tape machine, you could take each separate track out and record that into 8 tracks into any recording software, or 16 tracks, whatever you have. So you can, do a full mix from tape, if you have it. You just got to find studios that have machines, and honestly, it's becoming a little bit more few and far between because they're hard to maintain, but there's tons of studios that have them. So if you have any questions about that, depending on what format your recordings are in, I can help you find a guy that will help you transfer all that stuff.
Yeah, because I think the only thing, I didn't even know any places in New York really still had them. And I know here in Nashville we have Welcome to 1979. And they're pretty big because I think they try and do analog recording over everything.
That's Mara's studio, right?
I believe so.
That's Mara? Yeah, because he makes Mara machines. He takes all those old machines, the TCI machines, and he restores them and sells them.
Yes, it is Mara.
So that guy's really analog.
Yeah, that whole entire facility is completely trying to dodge. I mean, they have Pro Tools and stuff, but from what I understand, they never use it.
One thing I should mention, Jimmy, if the tapes have been sitting a long time, you have to bake them in a convection oven because they will shred. So depending on which engineer you work with, you got to make sure you bake the tapes before they hit the machines because they'll just shred to pieces.
Really?
So you don't want that to happen.
Wow.
So and just to clarify, that is like track by track, right? So if it's a 16-track tape machine, you'd be able to get track by track into the DAW. So not a 2 track mix down. He's talking about separating everything.
No, basically, like the way they work is that they'll have 16 tracks on the tape,
16 outputs,
and if you put that through the board, so you could put it through a board and just have it go that way, or you could just take the direct XLR outputs and go into each channel of the interface.
Thank you for your knowledge, Josh. Yeah, and thanks for the question, Jimmy Brogdon. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thanks.
We have one
That's
more.
a good question, Jimmy. I hope you can get those.
Just want to jump in there. I know it's a different thing than you're talking about. You guys are much more advanced, but I got this. My friend Jason Hills bought me this when I told him I needed it to digitize my cassette tapes.
Nice.
And I've been using this a lot, man. I've put so many cassette tapes into archives. Yeah, it's cassette tape to USB. Then I put it right in GarageBand. Then I cut up everything, label it, and I make like an album. I make an artwork for it. I put all the metadata in it. So it's like these things now live on my computer as kind of like albums in my iTunes that I could easily share with people. Memories from 95 or whatever, Clockwork rehearsals, Lou, and I haven't found a level 6 random rehearsal tape from, Electric Plant. I have no idea what's on there. I think songs that we never actually developed beyond a few rehearsals.
If you could send those
cool
to
treasures.
me, that would be awesome. And I was actually going to mention to you that I keep forgetting. I have some of the Cubase sessions of the songs we finished, but we never put the vocals to. I have everything all the way back, and they were on some of my old hard drives. I found them a few weeks ago. So if you're
Wow.
interested in me just sending them over to you for nostalgia, I got them.
Sure. Yeah, I actually I'll just put the question out now. So anything that you can find, Lou, and Josh, I would imagine you wouldn't have too much of this stuff I'll mention, but um, Lou, or anyone else who might be listening who would have any like level six flyers or any dates, because as I'm writing my autobiography, I want to try to pin dates down as much as possible, kind of because I'm writing it chronologically. It makes it interesting if you say on June 3rd, 2005, we did this. Every once in a while, you get an actual date. It kind of makes it flow in a nice
Mm-hmm.
way. So if you have any flyers, and it could be uh, from Beauty and Chaos or even Jack Frost, might somehow ring a bell for me. Any old, memorabilia type of stuff, I'd be interested in a copy, electronic copy of it.
Yeah,
If you
I'll
could
take a
drum up any
look.
of that stuff.
Hmm.
Cool. Thank you.
And we also have a question from Tom. He said,
Hmm.
"Hey Josh, who do you think is a better lead singer slash drummer, Phil Collins or Don Henley?" That's a tough one.
Oh, that's a tough one. Phil Collins is like he's like known for creating like the gated drum sound, which is like a huge drum sound of the '80s. So he's like a pioneer. But personally, listening to them, Don Henley. I love Don Henley with the Eagles. I love Don Henley's solo. I just love his voice. I love his playing. I love how creative he is. There's that part in Hotel California when it's just like timbales, doom 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 doom, and like whenever people
Yeah.
hear it, even people that are non-musicians, they know it's coming and they just love that part. So he's a classic.
Nice, nice. Good question. All right, Josh, I got another one for you. Um, at which point, and you don't have to dive in too deep, and if you wouldn't, I think this is correct question, but if you, I don't know, tell me what do you think? At which point did you switch your focus from playing music to recording music? I know you do both, but uh,
I feel like recording music kind of also happened as an accident for me.
mhm.
Just the fact that my house became the rehearsal studio, and then we started recording, and then I started getting into like just a little more advanced tech than what we had. My dad invested in a little 16 track analog mixer, and we used to have that going out into a 2-channel interface. So we would just kind of record straight to 2-track. So because it was kind of like foreign gear to my other bandmates, and I happened to have it in my house, I became like the resident tech, you know?
Wow.
So I feel like I kind of got thrown into the fire with it, and then it kind of consumed my life, you know, recording, and I feel like I try to play as much as I can and stuff, but I find that I think my place in the world is more of to help other people get their visions across, while I handle the technical side and they could handle the art side.
Yeah, wow. Pretty cool how you just keenly perceive where um where you can create the most value and at the same time be fulfilled and have fun.
Yeah, you got to have fun with it. I mean, we all do. We all have jobs. We all work hard. Music is a job, recording is a job, and there's things that are mundane. There's things that are stressful. It's for me. It causes me a lot of anxiety when something in the studio is not working, because I have to tech it real fast or have spares. As I learned now, it's always good to have 2 computers, because you never know when one's going to go down. But
Yeah.
yeah, you got to have a good time, and there's a lot of artists that I know that are just amazing artists, just great singers, great songwriters, great guitar players, and they don't want to be bogged down with the technical side. They don't want to learn it. They really don't care for it. They don't have the head for it. They're not computer guys, and I'll be happy to take that off their shoulders if it means that they can get some great art out, and I could facilitate that on the tech side. That's a dream come true for me.
So I was
Yeah.
just reminded by somebody of something I should have thanked you for. This is a good place to say it. but I accidentally became a mastering engineer thanks to Josh Salant of
Nice.
of Brooklyn, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I remember asking your opinion of a couple of things that I was submitting into the TV libraries, and you had said, "Who mastered this?" I was like, "That was me."
Yeah.
And I've
It
become a
blew me away,
mastering
man.
guy ever
It,
since.
it blew me away. You know why? Because some people take a very, very technical approach to mastering to the point where it's so technical that they're distracted from the art and they can't think objectively. They think they're very zoomed in. They can't zoom out. They're thinking about EQ curves. They're thinking about volume levels. They're thinking about decibels. They're thinking about formats. I mean, these are all very important things to the job of a mastering engineer, but you can't get stuck in those details. You have to zoom out and listen and be like, how do I make this sound the best I can make it sound? And you know how to do that. And of course, there's great mastering engineers, but my number one choice is you, and you know that
Thank you, sir.
because you know what to do. Because you take my work and you make it better. And if a client is happy with the work as it is, when you make it better, they go, "Man, that guy Lou, man, he made it sound really good." I said, "I know."
Thank you, man. Thanks.
Why do you think I sent you there?
But yeah, very similar thing. I kind of I accidentally stumbled into that, and you're the prime guy that
I don't
sent
think
me in
I've
that
ever,
situation.
I have a bachelor's degree in media from Hunter College, and I've I got it in 2010. No one has ever asked me for it. Every single job that I've had is because I was thrown into the fire, and no one cares about that piece of paper. I'm not saying, and I have to say, going to school helped me a lot because I met some mentors, I met some really good friends, and I had some experience just living in New York. Because when you go to college in New York City, you learn about the levels and the hierarchy and the bureaucratics and the red tape you have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a very important part. But the actual paper, it never has mattered to me yet. But there's nothing like being thrown into the fire where you have to really learn the stuff and learn it yesterday. That you really, I don't know. It's challenging. It's fun. It's a good stress. It's a good it's a fire under your ass. That makes you try to be better.
Yeah.
And I think that's a important one.
And that being thrown in the fire, it's like it's it makes sense. It's the person that's willing to be thrown in the fire that gets the gig because you could have as many degrees or pass as many tests as you want, but if you're not willing to be thrown in the fire, then yeah, and no one say useless, but that's more than half of it, really, right? That
Yeah,
willingness.
totally. And there's always somebody better than you. There's always somebody faster than you. You could learn from anybody, from any age, from any place. Um, I'm on so many forums on Facebook and stuff, and I just read. I try to sift through the arguments of the tech. Like, oh, you can't use that. You got to use this. Whatever. There's always going to be that back and forth. But like, I'm learning so much just by reading this stuff, and I feel like I've had some 17-year-old kids come into the studio, and they bring up some tracks that they made on their laptop or their iPad, and I go, "Wow, how'd you get the drums to sound like that?" And they go, "Oh yeah." My buddy Zen in particular, he's like, "Oh yeah, I threw a vocal transformer on the drums, and I took the formant down, and the drums sound crazy." And I said,
Yep.
"They sound amazing." So you learn from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope I didn't dance around the question too much.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I like the learning from everybody thing. There's this Zen Buddhist concept, and I don't practice Zen Buddhism, but I've read a lot of various philosophies, and we can go into more philosophical portion of the show from now, if that's okay with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, there's a concept called beginner's mind, which you guys may be familiar with, which is if you approach something with the mind of a master, your world is already very limited because you feel like you know everything there is to know. Whereas if you approach it from the mind of a beginner, you think anything is possible if only I could learn it, you know? So by having that beginner's mind, which it sounds like you approach it with, Josh, then there's no end to the amount you can learn. So you can always
Yeah.
grow.
I try to grow every day, man. I have a couple pennants of my life that I try to hit. I try to learn something every day. I try to do something productive every day, and I try to laugh every day. I feel like you have to have downtime, because if you know my job requires me to basically be in a dungeon for 10 hours a day and never get out. So I found ways to really enjoy it, and I find that I'm always a beginner, no matter. And especially if you work with people who don't know as much, when you show them things, you reinforce the building blocks, and it forces you to always go back to the building blocks and think, oh wow, that's right, all these drum rudiments are just, each hand doing a one stroke. It's a bunch of simple ideas strung together to make complex ideas. So what it comes down to is get your simple building blocks down perfect if you can. That's a life journey. It takes 100 years to do that, but focus on it, because all the complicated stuff is just simple stuff strung together.
Yeah,
that's the way I think.
Oh yeah, that's right. And I think there's this one arpeggio pattern I learned when I was 17 in college, taking classical guitar lessons. I took 1 year of classical guitar lessons, and from a master, and he taught me this pattern. It's called PIMA. It's just those 4 fingers in a row, arpeggio, PIMA. And I would say, I don't know, 22 years later, I really have not mastered that yet. And I always teach it to each one of my students, like, this is something you're going to be struggling with for your entire life. Not to scare them, but to let them know that this is, don't take this lightly. It seems so simple, you could easily brush it off, but don't. Because if you strengthen.
So what is that, John? Is that pointer, index, middle? What's the
A? PIMA is Spanish, pulgar, indice, medio, anul, right? So it's in English it's TIMR, thumb, index, middle, ring. So bum 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 bum. Just that pattern. Let's say on E minor chord, just low E string, then the G, B, and E. Just getting that boom, 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 and then actually, what everyone does is this. If you could see my hand, boom, 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 boom. See how I'm like my fingers are bending like the dancers of the can, like that.
Yeah.
Right. Ideally it should be boom, 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 all the way to the point where they actually touch your palm, which is super difficult and weird feeling, and then to reset it and get the exact right position every time. PIMA, PIMA, and then to get that fast, super difficult. But that's a building block that, fortunately, because I focused on it, I can do arpeggios smoothly now. And I'm sure when I was playing it more, I was better at it. But yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. Oh, Lou, are there any like fundamental building blocks that you kind of appreciate now that you learned besides squealing?
Like directly into guitar work?
Yeah, I'd say guitar. I mean, unless there's some sort of like recording thing that you could easily bring up.
Well, it always, like, I completely understand what Josh is saying, and I think it's because we're in the same world. Everything always, when something goes wrong, you have to take it to the absolute basics. Is it the cable? Is it this? Is it that? Most people start looking at the computer settings, and they are so intimidated by the computer, they don't realize that something very easy right in front of them could have been what's gone wrong. Because a lot of my musical career is actually being a troubleshooter, for the most part. I troubleshoot more than I do anything else. And even when I'm finding errors in recordings that I'm cleaning up or stuff like that, it's always a troubleshoot. And people overcomplicate things, and you always have to kind of bring it back to the basics. And you obviously know that as a guitar teacher too. a lot of the times people's errors lie in the foundation and not
Hmm.
in the advanced stuff. But yeah, as far as guitar, I still do the spider walk a lot. I do a lot of different patterns to kind of keep my hands loose. And I
Hmm.
notice if I don't do those patterns, I don't even want to say this, but I know that because of age, if I go like a couple of days without doing the patterns, my hands lock up doing very simple things sometimes. And not like an injury, but you could feel it. You know what I mean? Like the rust you get very quickly. The
Oh
second you
yeah.
take like a week off and then you get back and you're like, wait a second, I lost a tiny bit of speed. It doesn't take long to get back, but if you don't maintain it, you lose it.
Yeah.
So I still do a lot of weird, spidery kind of flexible things just to keep my left hand moving well. But they
Hmm.
don't ever really make sense. I'd have to
Okay.
say that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
You just reminded me that uh, if 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 I just play now, it's going to be very chord oriented, and my solos will be very kind of more that like slash. I don't know who. More maybe I'm not sure who plays like it, but just very sort of sloppy because that's just what happens when I don't do a lot of practice, and I don't even play in a very specific style like single notes where each note counts. It's more like the feel thing.
Right.
So I totally get it. Like if I try to do a quick lick, like try to emulate Randy Rhoads or something, I'm very embarrassed
Yeah,
because it's not happening, you
it's
know?
always those super little quick kind of nuancy things where you really notice it and you notice that like I really missed that timing, because when beginners look at things like tapping and a lot of what was like those famous 80s solos, you start to realize that they're not really that intricate once you get used to the pattern. But when you start listening to more nuancy jazz players or the bluesy rock guys like Slash that do those little nuancy kind of like really quick shots. And when your hand doesn't react quite as quick, it pushes the whole line back.
Right.
and then you're
Yes.
kind of just chasing at that point. And yeah, Jimmy Brogna said the same here, Lou. Yeah, I've noticed over time it kind of starts adding up. But you do have another question, Josh. So this is from Tom, and he says, "What was your favorite part being in John Henry's first three music videos? Late for School, Laser Star, and Marching Marshmallows."
Right. I want to ask that question. I'm glad Tom
That
asked
was
it. Thank you, Tom. Thanks, Lou.
Mm-hmm.
that's an easy one. That's just hanging out with you guys. I mean, think about it. To spend an afternoon in Marine Park in on a beautiful day, how can you say no to that? you know, but no, just working with the music, it was a lot of fun. Working with the videographer, he's the best. So I just
Oh
say
yeah,
working with you
Fran.
guys, man. That's the most fun. That's the most fun you can have as a musician, working with others with a like-minded goal to have a good time.
Yeah, I have to just chime in and just say, yeah, I was so fortunate that I have friends like Josh and Tom who are willing to, and Frank Geo, who are willing to step in and and create co-create something just really for the fun of it, which is kind of on my from my desire, and they say, yeah, let's do it, and then we create something that's fun that'll live on. I know my son watched that video hundreds of times, and I know some of my friends' children watch those videos a lot. So we will be leaving a mark, by choosing to co-create those.
And
And
the fact that the videos are on YouTube now and they're on the internet, which is like the world's biggest hard drive,
Hmm.
is great because you can't lose it.
Right.
It's a part of history and it's a snapshot in time,
Yeah,
which
that's
is a
right.
real cool thing.
It is, and I've shown a lot of people, all my students, not all, but I recommend that they watch it, and they, because I teach them those songs on single strings. And if there's a video that they can associate with it, which is more complicated than the single string melody, I don't know, it adds a layer of mystery to it or intrigue. And um, what else I want to say about that? Yeah, and some it's amazing. Like the Late for School has the most views of all of them, most dislikes too. I don't know. It's like 1/4 dislikes, which is where it's like
Wow,
a
that's
wear
good.
as a badge of honor. It's like it's kind of important
Yeah,
to be able to take those. And then Marching Marshmallows, or one of them has no dislikes,
yeah,
just a bunch of likes, and you wonder what happened in between that. Hey, what's the difference? I don't know. I can't figure it out. You know, or it was also
yeah. I know.
no, no.
Yeah.
Go. I was
I'm
also
sorry, I didn't
I
mean
was
to
just gonna
cut you
say
off.
it was also different eras. Like they were a couple of years apart, so it could have been something different in 2014 than 2016. But yeah, go for it.
Yeah, the times change. I know that. I forgot what I was going to say exactly, but there's something special about looking back at your previous work, and you just see, like, I don't know, like like for me, it feels like you really capture the magic, of that time in a bottle. The way you looked, what you were into, the way that you would create your art, the way that your art was interpreted. Sometimes it could take years and years for people to latch on to something and find something. But it's great that it's up there, and we should all be proud of our work and our arc of progression that we make every every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with those videos in particular, at least a few of them, probably all three of them, you could sense we're having fun, and it's goofy. So that sense of like at Laser Star, there's some funny jokes at the end. You said a few funny jokes that I still laugh at every time I see it. So there was something genuine that came across that'll be captured for people,
So,
That's
ongoingly.
good, man. That's good.
so we do have another
That's
question.
good.
Yeah, I
This is
saw that. Go ahead.
This
What's
is a
that,
good
Lou?
friend of mine, Ronnie DeVito. He's from Franklin Guitar and Repair. He's a great guitar builder. He's a great guitar player. And he's also, I'm going to give a little drop here. He will be on the premiere Camarilla Cafe episode that's coming up soon. And he
Excellent.
asks, do y'all find if you take an extended break from playing, a week, month plus, that you feel more creative when you return?
Yes,
Hmm.
totally. I feel like you have to. I feel like when I go on vacation, I take a few days away from the studio. I listen to the radio a lot on the drive down wherever I'm going, and I get so inspired, and I hear so many things that I overlook because I'm burnt out. It's very easy to get burnt out. So when you take a break, or um, like for me in terms of sonics, when I take a break from recording, and I listen to tons of recordings, and I just listen to the sonics, and I go, ooh, I gotta try that. That's probably this mic placed here, like you just, or using this piece of gear. It just like for me, it just gets the juices flowing again. Because you're so burnt out sometimes, and then you need a little inspiration. So totally taking some time off. I find, especially with band practice, if you practice every week, a lot of bands are like, oh, well, we have to practice, 2 times a week or practice every week. I feel like it's counterproductive because nobody's heart is into it. Then it becomes work and it's not fun. If you practice every 2 weeks, you're excited to get together, you're excited to play, and your energy will come across in the playing.
Hmm.
Agreed.
Interesting. What do you think, Lou, about the that question?
For me, I've always had a little different of an angle on stuff like that. Like, my drive to be creative is generally things that are going on in my life at the time. So I've always been extremely emotionally attached to a lot of the things that I create. So usually when I do take a good amount of time off, it doesn't usually take long for something to rattle me generally in life. So for me, music's always kind of been my megaphone. To really put something out there and get loud and maybe say things in words that are poetic, so they're not as terrible as they would be if they weren't placed in that art form. And it gives me
Hmm.
the capability to get it out and in a more allowable format. so
Hmm.
so yeah, if I go long enough, there comes a point where I have to sit back down and I'm a little bit more, invigorated, and I'm kind of excited to have the drive to be back on it, because I know a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
times I take breaks when I'm trying to write a really good song and I've already written six that are bad, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that's usually the way most songwriters make. I forgot who made the famous quote, but for every one hit song, I wrote 100 terrible ones. I forgot
Right.
who said that, but it's really true. You can't, nobody writes 1,000 hit songs in a row, or even 1,000 good songs in a row. So yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I find that a lot of the times I'll start really digging in. Something kind of made me want to dig in, and it'll kind of open the book. What about you, John?
Mm. Yeah, interesting. I don't actually play guitar anymore, really. So it's not like I quit. I just it's not in my daily routine. I don't really. So taking a break is just kind of like playing is more rare than taking a break, you know. But
Well, you're a teacher, so you've got to, like, I guess mandatorily you play a lot more on average than any of us would.
right, that's possible. And well, I was doing those performances for 8 weeks. I was performing and then doing the jam along, so I was playing. But I guess I'm not associating that with playing because I wasn't exploring, you know.
Right.
So it's like it wasn't. There was nothing, no way to get to need to be more creative because I was just doing a job. Even practicing my own songs or cover songs is just kind of a job. There's a technique. I just go through it and place all the chords and then listen to it. And so to actually play, and I guess I haven't been creating new stuff in a long time. So that's why the question seems a little foreign to me at the moment. But I do remember this one story where when I was first started playing guitar early on, I don't know, the first year or two, I took a vacation to the Poconos with my mother and brother, um, and I was really attached to my guitar at that time. Maybe I was 14 or 13. So I was sad that I couldn't bring my guitar with me. I'm like, oh no, what am I gonna do for 3 days? I'm not gonna play guitar. You know, it really bothered me. And then I was listening to Black Sabbath cassette and my Walkman. I was probably kind of like a grumpy teen, just like, let me listen to my music. I don't want to talk. And then I got there and we went to the mall and I bought Don't Blame Me, Ozzy, VHS, the story of Ozzy
Wow.
up to that point in the 90s, and about Randy Rhoads, and I was really moved. And he's ever since been one of my biggest influences. Anyway, so all that listening, and I watched that video probably 2 or 3 times, and more listening on the way back. I got home after those 3 days or so, started playing my guitar, and I definitely improved just from the listening and the thinking and
Right.
the not playing. It was really amazing
Yeah.
to me. I'm like, I got better. I was really worried I was going to lose something, at that time. And I
Yep.
noticed that happened. So I was like, there is something to this spacing things out,
There's
you
magic,
know?
man. Magic just
Mm-hmm.
listening and internalizing it. Also, John, I know that our mutual friend Ronnie Nissenbaum, I know he uses your books exclusively to teach his students. You know,
Yeah.
so
Well,
it just goes to show that everybody learns from everybody.
sure. Oh, yeah, yeah. He's a exceptional player and a great
Oh,
teacher
he's great.
and great teacher.
He's great.
And maybe he uses them exclusively for the very beginning. I know he's kind of committed to that, and I appreciate that. But then, of course, it can only go so far, so he branches off into various materials. But he's been really helpful in promoting that book at the Little Kids Rock Convention in Denver. He
Yeah,
helped me with that, and then my book got out into various schools throughout the country in the past few years. So it's in
that's
high
so cool,
schools and
man.
stuff.
Yeah,
It's a
man,
big
that's
accomplishment,
crazy.
man. Yeah,
Yeah, it's nice. So I
because
owe him a
that
big
was
thank you to
that was
Ronnie.
an idea in your mind, and now it's in the hands of people around the country. It's pretty cool, man. Think about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you've
thanks.
influenced.
I remember sitting on
Yeah,
sitting on the B3
absolutely.
bus, Avenue U bus here in Brooklyn, in 2013, like saying, "Oh, I gotta put out a book," and then I put in this really simple melody together for, let's say, for Laser Star. Oh, and I'll use the numbers on the single string: 0 0 0 0 2 0 0 0 4 0 0 0 0 5 4 0 0 0. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
so dull. But I'm like, if I put interesting chords behind it, maybe, and if I make the words kind of weird and something that would stick in someone's head. And then I just stuck to that vision, and I kept teaching it with a straight face, like saying, think if I take it seriously, the student probably will. And then little by little, it became a real thing. And then decided I'm going to make a video for it. Fortunately, I got a Class A actor, Joshua Salant, to be in the video, and Thomas Scuderi as well. And it became its own, it became its own thing. It has a life of its own now. So yeah, so like you said, this idea in my head that I decided to believe in, and then
Yeah.
people helped me and believed in me too, and it's amazing what we can accomplish. And
If you build it, they will come.
yeah, and to add that to that, the method is spreading throughout the country. There is also someone, a friend and supporter in Germany, who's teaching my single string method effectively. So it's getting a bit international too.
Well,
That's cool.
you've always had an excellent way of kind of breaking concepts down. Playing in your basement with you guys, whichever configuration of guys we'd have per night that we did it, definitely made me a much better musician and made me a lot more conscious. Even if it was more subconscious when I was learning theory back then, because I never quite put everything together until the last few years. You've definitely made me a better guitar player. And, I used to make shots at you all the time about the way you deliver it to me. But, because you kind of give me that snark back.
Do it right.
He would kind of do it in like, I mean, I was always breaking his chops, so I can't really blame him. But he kind of approached me like I was a 10-year-old. But the most insulting part of it is that I would grasp it when he did it. So it's kind of like I'd always question, like, I really hate the way he told me that, but I actually understand it. And I don't want to admit that I understand it.
It actually worked.
Right.
Yeah. But you've always had a really good way of, like, taking a total different language, like music theory, and kind of putting it into English and making it, like, obvious. Like sometimes I was boggled as to why I couldn't grasp it until you told it to me that way. And then I didn't forget it because of the way you told it to me that way.
Mm-hmm.
But
nice.
But yeah, I've definitely become a better player because of, observing how you kind of approach things and how you build things and put them together. So yeah, you definitely have a really good knack for getting those things out in a way that people can understand. So
Thanks,
I'm not surprised.
Well, I appreciate that, and I really do, because it helps to hear it. Even if it, I feel some sort of like confidence in it. It really helps to hear from a peer, from a friend, and to know I made a difference in that way. So thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah. Anytime you wanna learn a little more about advanced squealing, I'm definitely open to having a sit down.
Lou, I have your number on speed dial. Okay.
I thought you memorized
trying to
his
get
number.
the squeal.
You guys from that era.
If you told me Lou's number right now, I could probably remember for the rest of the year, because it was that deep ingrained. But I can't pull it out of my head.
Yeah.
So I just want to let you guys know. Andy Nissenboim says, "Hey John, hey Josh, Lou. I'm not sure if you met
Ronnie's
Andy,
brother.
but yeah, that's Ronnie's brother. So yeah, it's good to hear
Andy.
from him.
Okay.
What's going on, Andy?
We
Nice
got to link
to
up
digitally
soon.
meet you.
Yeah, Andy's cool. He's actually a very good bass player too.
Oh,
Excellent
cool.
bass player.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Brooklyn guy. So, Josh, so going into the philosophy part of this, what is one of the greatest lessons you've learned along your journey that keeps you positive, upbeat, and moving forward?
I would say take the variables that you're given and making the best thing you can make with them without destroying the initial vision. I feel like sometimes sometimes you record sometimes I record a band and the guitar player is not that technically proficient, and that's okay. That's his sound. My job is to make him sound like this is his band, and he's going to own his sound. He's going to own his playing or her playing, and it's going to work in the context of the production. So my job is, don't mess it up.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep it simple and don't mess it up. That keeps me happy.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's kind of like I know I've heard there's different producers, engineers have different approaches. Some are very hands off. They're like, I'm going to capture the sound of the band. And then some, which sounds like kind of your approach. And then there's some people who come in and say, I'm going to turn this into something that's not there yet. I'm going to like mold it even more and make it more polished and whatever, like those kind of super producers.
I think the band has to, I think that, I think it's the band's choice. If they're like, hey, dude, can you make it sound really, really good and really polished? Sure. We're going to have to do things a lot slower, not in tempo and just the time it's going to take to do that. Or some bands just have a sound and they go, hey, this is my sound. Can you just record it? You go, yep. And I think that's kind of the difference between an engineer and a producer. I find myself in the engineering side. Mainly, I'm kind of a default producer if the band doesn't have somebody that makes the final say. But it's the same approach. It's just work with the band's vision. If the band wants a super polished product, if the band wants to be captured, as raw as possible in their state, with their sound, then that's what we're gonna do.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Lou, out of curiosity, what and I guess going on that particular point, I don't know how many experiences you have recording a full band that's not your own band, but what would your approach be? More like similar to Josh, like see where they are at, or would you want to kind of guide the whole ship?
And I think that goes straight into what Josh was saying before about the mastering. I take an approach where I don't want to mess it up, and I understand that a lot of the times people have a vision. So unless somebody would come up to me and say, hey, I want this produced and I want this built up, chances are they've already kind of developed their vision. And now as an engineer, and especially being a responsible engineer, is you're trying to retain that magic without messing it up. If you're confident in what you do and you're working for the client, you're always trying to keep yourself out of it. I find that I've never even worked well in the past with people that had to forcefully kind of put their imprint on things. So I don't feel like when people send me material, or if I'm tracking a band, or especially, I mean, recently I've been working with songwriters at certain different moments in time where they'd come in with an acoustic guitar, say, I want to make a rock song. And we build the tracks up, very similar to, when I put the orchestration over the cover we did of Ordinary World. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I'll be approached by somebody that says, I want you to produce me literally. But, more cases than not, people have put a lot of time into getting their sound. They've put a lot of practice and time into getting that kind of like feel and magic that they have. And, you have to try and like throw your ego out. Not everybody wants your sound imprinted on them. And you have to do your best as a responsible engineer to kind of preserve that. And it gets really difficult to do at times. Because if you look for something, most likely you'll find it. Like I mentioned with the quantizing earlier. It's very easy with your eyes to look at it and go, I should fix that. And now you're changing a lot.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And yeah, like Josh said earlier, you know, a lot of the times when I get the bulk of my mastering sent by Josh, and I know that he's sat with the band, and whether it was his vision or the band's vision, they have created what they want to hear. So now I have to look at it from the perspective of, if there is no issue, I don't fix it, but I get it to the best it can be while retaining what they were aiming for. And that's my job,
Hmm.
you know? So I definitely think that's the way to look at it if you want to have a long career.
And there's nothing like there's nothing like a spare set of ears. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people work with me because I'm an outside set of ears. So I haven't been in the rehearsals, and then I take their vision, and I try to have it come across as genuinely as possible. And then I'll send the tracks to Lou, and he'll take our vision, and he'll be super subjective, and he'll be like, what do I have to do to make this sound even better? So it's just a matter of having fresh ears of people that aren't, well, of course the artist is married to the art, but it's just people that are able to maintain some level of being subjective to make the
Mm-hmm.
stuff sound as good as it can.
Hmm. Cool. Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I've never actually recorded. I've recorded a few friends, maybe just guitar and voice, but not a band. So well, no, actually, I did for the David Z Modern Music program. I recorded our
Yeah,
band, and that was a challenge, all done remotely.
Woo!
With young people
that's very hard.
who haven't done that before. So, and
It's very
then
hard.
then I had to piece it together. So that was a slightly different thing, but I could relate to what you guys are saying, and also from the artist's point of view, I know sometimes you want that hand to guide it a little bit strongly, and sometimes you want people to lay off and say, no, no, I this is what we want, and this is what I want, and
Yeah.
please just capture it.
It's got to be open and honest communication where problems get rectified and strengths get highlighted, where people can really be proud of the work that they've done. And art takes time. Art takes
Hmm.
work. But
Yeah.
there is a thing of working and getting diminishing returns, where you work on something too long, or you work, I have some sessions I've been working with some artists that we've been working on the same song for 6 years.
Right.
And I being honest, I don't really know. I'm not subjective anymore. I'm not objective anymore. I'm just somewhere in the middle, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like that's diminishing returns.
And
It, it
I think in the case of a lot of producers and people who do this stuff, they kind of lose track of the fact that we're in the business of customer service. Like,
oh yeah,
we're
Hmm.
not really in, like, if we were artists, we would be legitimately artists and only doing our own stuff, almost like a Trent Reznor, you know? And we're not. We're offering abilities that we've obtained by use of equipment we may have obtained to give somebody something that for whatever reason they can't do on their own. So we're providing a service. So, and I've
and it's just
especially.
skills. It's like anybody can learn this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
I'm sorry.
I've met a lot of producers that kind of get lost in that they want to be an artist, and even when they work with an artist, they're the artist. You know, they have to mold it exactly the way they do things. And yeah, this is a customer service industry. You're a tool to by which an artist gets their vision out, and it's always good to remind yourself of that numerous
Yeah.
times.
Right, and then do
Yeah,
the best you can within that, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
because that's I think one of the most precious things we can get. Now, getting a little philosophical here, but one of the most precious things we can give to another human being is genuine listening. Actually, like a friend or anybody really is when we ask how are you, and we actually listen to what they say. That's one of the greatest gifts we can give to people, right? Because how many people feel like no, they're unheard, or nobody
yeah.
truly listens. So to give that to someone as a human being, as a friend, but then also professionally to be able to offer someone, a service and actually listen to what they say, and then respond according to what they say. I mean, that's so valuable, you know, and then give them what they ask for. It's like, whoa,
Yeah, you can tell
great.
they've put thought into you, and they've actually listened to the context of what you've said. There's care.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Hey
it
Josh,
goes a long way.
how are you, Josh? Oh
I'm
yeah, that's
good.
awesome. That's great.
That's how a lot of people talk. Isn't that sick?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I
That's how a
have
lot
a
of people are.
friend. I have a friend, Evan, that I met. He's from Street Poetics Entertainment. I went to college with him in Florida, and he used to do this thing. Once he realized like the type of person I was, and since I'm from New York and he's from the New England area, so you know how that goes. He would just walk past me in the hall and look me dead in the eye and go, "Good, you?" Like just stare right at me, and then turn his head and keep walking. And, and you're right. It's so accurate that most people, it's like, "Hi, how are you?" And you know they don't. Like, it's just, they just say it.
Yeah, it's sometimes you sense like they clearly give me the feeling they don't want to know anything that's not just like keeping status quo. So why do they even use words that imply I could say anything besides like hello to them? You know,
yeah.
it's like what's going on? You're like, no, no, because the way you said it, I could tell you don't want to know. You know,
It's true. It's true.
or it's like what's going on? Good, right? Okay, what's going on? Good.
It's almost like they say it because they think it's common courtesy, but they're being anything but courteous. Because you could tell it's not genuine, you know?
It's funny. So anyway, because of that strange reality we live in, we can the flip side, the positive side is that we can actually give people a great gift by realizing what they're missing. What they're missing is someone to actually listen to what they say and hear it. You know, that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And just somebody that will actually collaborate. You know, it's
Hmm.
it's 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 two heads are better than one. It's always good to bounce ideas off people. It's always good to a lot of people want to be self-produced, and that can work. But I think Mixer Man says it in his book, and it really makes sense. Like, you can't talk yourself off the ledge if you're self-produced. There's nobody to tell you, hey, maybe that's not a great idea. Let's try something else, because it's just you, you know. So I always prefer, and this even goes into my day-to-day work of mixing and stuff. Like, I much rather have the band in the room with me, because I think that we can work together, and instead of me trying to guess what they want me to make it sound like, I could say, how's this? And they go, I could do like the ophthalmologist approach. You like this or you like this, and this way things happen faster. And it's not my vision. It's not only their vision. It's like our vision too. How can we take the art and the tech and make it something that you're proud of? That's the be all end all for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would add in there. I don't know if what would you two feel, but this might has to do with my morals or something. But if I'm creating something for someone, um, I don't want it to be a lie either. So I don't want to make them appear better than they are, because I don't think that helps anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
Now,
certainly a reflection, show the best self, but not a
yeah.
lie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My buddy Priest, he mentioned something to me years ago, and it's so true. He goes, you could write these songs, you could record these songs and release these songs. He goes, just remember that all non-musicians can always hear two things: when the voice is out of key and when something's out of time. Because the general, just like all the music that you hear has grooves and stuff, and when something is a mistake, it's pretty obvious. So our job is to find out what's a mistake, what has intent, and if it is a mistake, how do we rectify it? And if it has intent, how do we prove that it's not a mistake? So it's like it's there's always this back and forth because you want it to be, like you said, John. You want things to be honest and you want things to be true. And our job, like my job, what I always say is I have to capture the band, and if I can make them sound a little bit larger than life, than how they sound in real life, then I think we have done. We're in a pretty good place for a release.
So you have to figure out when it's jazz and when it's not jazz.
Right.
Yeah, well, you know what they say, Lou? They say that if you make a mistake once, it's a mistake. If you make a mistake twice, it's jazz. So, I mean, I do it all the time, man. I'm playing drums. Listen, I'm playing drums and I go, oops, I hit that crash on the and not on the one. So I'm gonna do it again, and now it's gonna be a part.
Right.
And now it's gonna make sense.
When I had a few people that, like, I wouldn't say I was teaching them, because I would never consider myself necessarily a teacher, but when I was guiding people into music, when they used to ask about making mistakes, I used to say, I don't make less mistakes, I cover them up quicker.
Yeah.
And I think me and John spoke about that too, the last podcast, how it's like, how do you get back from the mistake faster? Or how do you play off that it didn't happen?
How do you hide your mistakes?
Yes.
You hide them better.
I feel like I've gotten much better at that over the years, where you just get back on it quick.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
What else can you do?
Mm-hmm. Which leads me to the next question, which was probably the question Lou had answered before. We do have a question from Tom Scuderi about underrated drummers. So let's come back to that in a minute, because I think I would like to hear Josh's opinion on that.
Well, the answer is Ringo.
Ringo. Okay.
Yeah.
I think he's in modern. No, he didn't.
Yeah, just underrated drummers. Let's come back to that question in a second. So Josh, can you what aspect of your life philosophy helps you recover from setbacks? Which I guess is kind of similar to what Lou was talking about in terms of like
every setback happens for a reason. And I feel every mistake happens for a reason. And it's to teach you to not make that mistake again. You learn from your mistakes. Mm-hmm. And I feel every single setback I've ever had has been, for me, I feel like they've been my fault. And I feel like I've learned from them. And I do the best I can to avoid the pitfalls and try to move forward and progress and not fall into traps.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. So basically you take everything as a learning opportunity, more or less. So.
Absolutely. I mean, there's going to be times there's times where I'm tracking guitars and I'm tracking them and they sound great. And then I listen to them a week later and I'm like, I don't like the way these guitars sound. So what do? I talk it over with I speak to the guitar player, say, what do you think about these guitar sounds? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Scale from 1 to 10. Okay. If you're feeling a 5, we're going to retrack them because let's make it perfect.
Now, if you guys don't mind me asking, this is going to be a philosophical question, which bounces off of this, but do you believe that, at this time, on a very large scale as a society, we may have an issue identifying the problems rather than covering them up?
Yeah, totally. I think that it's especially where you are, like in this field where your ears are at. I feel like some of the best engineers I know are like in their 70s. And their ears are already degrading because of physical, just because of age. But I feel like it took them 70 years to really know what to do.
Right.
So I feel like, one of them is Dave Foreman. I mean, Dave Foreman, his ears, physically, he's got problems. But his mixes sound great because he knows what to do. He has intuition. He has, 40, 50 years of experience. His ears aren't a limitation to him anymore. But to us as young engineers, and we don't always hear what the bad is. That's why we have to bounce it off other people. We have to get opinions. We have to get second opinions from ourselves. We don't have all the answers. We need to work together. We have to find out how to make these things work, and where some compromises are made, but everybody is happy and proud of what we've done.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I'm asking is because, I used to be very, very into psychology and stuff like that, and then I kind of veered away when I realized I had to learn psychiatry to go into that direction or that field. And one of the biggest questions I kind of had was, do we teach people how to recognize the error and work around it because that might be solving the problem, or do we mask it and prescribe things? And I feel that a lot of us who continue to work in the industries that we love to be in, which are extremely dynamic industries, right? We always have a different client. We always have a different personality. We run into our own problems all the time. It sounded very much like you kind of stated this in a very big way, the same thing that I just did. That was kind of like you need to be cognizant of what the mistake is and then consistently evolve to keep going, because that's where the problem is.
And weed out what's a mistake and what's intent. I mean, sometimes people want to do some wacky things in the studio where they want things to be, some crazy effects, and like you ask them, is this what you want? And they go, yeah. And you go, cool. This might not be my favorite thing in the world, but if you love it and this is going to be a representation of your creative aspect on these tunes, then that's what we're going to do. It's not a mistake at that point. Then it's intent. So you got to weed out what's a mistake, what's intent. If something is blatantly obvious, like a hit is off and it's bothering everybody, let's fix it.
Right.
Cool. So let me just jump in, guys, and say that so Tommy Hoffman is waving, and Samantha Bovshotis joined. I don't know if she's still with us. Stuart Wilkes is here. As I said, Andy Nissenbaum and Konstantin Mediuk, my good friend and bass player I've worked with several times, said great point about experience and intuition, which Josh was talking about with I believe Dave Foreman, who's been doing it for years.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, I appreciate the feedback, guys, and yeah, I just at my mother's house we had a plumber today change a toilet bowl, and he has been doing this since the he's been doing it for about 50 years. Been a plumber, in Brooklyn, and he told me some interesting stories, and he's a character, and he said that the young guys come in today and they think they know all about plumbing because they learned some tricks and some shortcuts, whatever. But he was taught by the old school guys who were, he was taught by people who did it 30 years in 1970 or 1960s, so the way systems in the 40s. So he knows the really old school way of plumbing in Brooklyn, especially since a lot of these houses are built many, many years ago.
Oh, yeah.
It's important to know that stuff, and so he was sharing about that, and I was realizing, the older generation can seem, I don't know, lazier or something if they're just sitting back and watching and giving advice, but they might actually know what they're talking about, and it might be worth listening to it and realizing that I could learn something here,
Yeah, one thing I've learned over the years is don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. It's like, just because you don't want to, just because you don't, want to have to, like for me, I hate digging into my computer. I hate opening it up and digging inside and messing with components because it's not my forte. But it's something that is a necessary evil for my business. So I have to learn. I have to get my hands dirty. I have to take advice from professionals, and I have to have experience with it and not just rely on having some people do it for me all the time.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how you learn and evolve, and you run into mistakes and you run into all kinds of obstacles, and you learn to overcome them, and it makes you much stronger in the field. In other words, strengthen your weaknesses. If you're weak in something, spend a little time with it and try to practice and see if you can do any better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. Just want to make a shout out to my high school music teacher, Robert Rams, who just joined us. He's watching.
Hey.
I appreciate that he's been, supporting some of the things I've been doing online lately, and and a big influence when I was growing up, learning how to play the trumpet and read music. And one cool thing I learned from Robert Rams when I was in high school was when you got a lot of sheet music, it's easy to make a mess, right? And so you tape it together. You put two pieces of Scotch tape on the back, and then you got this one thing. You open it up real quick. Your music's ready. So whenever I do my live shows, I always have my music taped together like that. It's a small little hack or whatever you want to call it, but that's the difference between a professional and non-professional, right? Someone who takes that extra step to be ready with the music to go,
Yep.
It's overcoming these little obstacles that can stab you in the back,
Yeah.
and just like with cars, you want to do a preventative maintenance, you want to change your oil, you want to check your tires, you want to check your fluids, because you don't want to be in the middle of nowhere with a flat. You don't want to run out of oil and have your engine seize up. It's like, so you have to do preventative maintenance. I do preventative maintenance in my job all the time. I spend hours and hours in the studio in the mornings, at night, setting things up, trying things out, testing things, working on different workflows, working it in a way where a band can step in and go, okay, I'm ready. And I go, great, me too. As opposed to, oh, well, this isn't working. And like, I work out all the kinks. I try to do as much preventative maintenance as possible, because it's less of a hurdle. It's going to be a much easier, smoother ride if you work things out beforehand.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it goes a long way, and it's funny how I discover myself. I don't say I don't think lazy is fair to myself to say that, but ish, whatever, it's like I could have done this earlier. Why didn't I do it? It wasn't from laziness. I just didn't want to until I needed to, that feeling.
Sometimes you got to be in the right mindset.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no reason to stress yourself out, and there's no reason to try to do something if your head isn't clear. I've had this experience a lot, during the quarantine, just like, rebuilding my systems, reworking stuff, and taking some different approaches than I would normally take. And it's stressful, but I do it over time, in a time that's right. Sometimes I wake up at 7 a.m. and I start hitting the computers and I start getting right into it. Or sometimes I'll sleep till 9. I'll take a nice long shower. I'll have a good breakfast. And then, I go downstairs. It's like 11 a.m. or noon, and then I'll start getting to work. You have to be in the right headspace, man. You got to listen to your body, and you have to listen to your mind. And there's no reason to stress yourself out, because, just like a muscle, a tight muscle is not going to move. A stressed out mind, a stressed out brain is not going to think clearly. It's counterproductive.
Yeah.
Tommy, sorry, you have anything to add there, Lou?
Oh no, I was well, I was gonna make a mention that a lot of the times the preparation makes the job so much easier, and when you get into the habit of showing up early, and I mean, you could make a whole day out of moving at a slow pace when you've shown up early, double, triple checked things. It can make it move so much smoother, so much easier than being right at the last second of doing something and then something going haywire, and you spend the whole rest of the day catching up. It's just the preventive maintenance is very, very important. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and just we're here to focus. We're here to have fun and have a good time, and I work with a lot of people from a lot of different fields. I work with lawyers. Sometimes I work with doctors. Sometimes I work with townies without really any place to live. I mean, there's people from all walks of life. And some people like have really stressful jobs, like lawyers. They have very stressful jobs, and they say, I'm so glad I'm here. I'm working on music. This is what I want to do with my life, you know. And it's like, so I have to give them the reprieve from their stressful job. I'm not going to add stress to their life. I want them to feel like they're on a tiny little vacation where they get to play music for a day. You know,
Right.
so I rather take the burden of the stress, you know, for me, and I'll spend the time doing that way before they get there. I'll work out the kinks, and of course, you know, of course you get thrown curveballs. Of course, kinks are going to happen. Of course, you know, and you have to be prepared. And you know, in one Tape-Op magazine I was reading, it's like hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. You know, like just have it so you can have like your desert island rig, you know, set up just in case all systems fail. You know? And
a backup of a backup.
Yeah, I try to take that approach with me because it makes things way easier. You know, I rather have a fun day than a hard day. I think anybody would agree with me.
Yeah. Tommy Hoffman sends this message: 7 P's, which are prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance.
Yeah,
that's
good. Totally
that's
accurate.
It's almost like Kiss, you know, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah,
that's my favorite.
Sometimes, sometimes I say that to myself, man. Like
it's the best advice.
Because I could easily overdo things. One of my strengths and weaknesses, I have to say, I don't know if you guys would readily see it. I don't know if it's kind of a new thing or if this is, Lou, you tell me if this was kind of part of my personality back in the day, but nowadays I find I'm very fastidious. So I'm like very attentive to details to the point where I don't know if it's obsessive, but it's fun for me. I like details. So I like to do, another word, you could be thorough, super thorough.
Yes.
So if I'm, I enjoy being thorough, like with my autobiography, for example, I'm doing year by year of my life, which I think many people might say that's ridiculous. You don't need to account for every year of your life. But I enjoy the challenge of that, and with the way I teach, I'm fastidious, and the way I do accounting and for my finances, and also with just like keeping track of my career. I want to know how many plays I had of this song or that song, or if I made a little bit of money, even if we're talking about pennies. I just want to know, because that's how you build things, in my opinion, is you pay attention to because I also garden, and you pay attention to these small seeds or to these little flowers that have no love, and you give them attention. They grow into something that creates a nice garden. So I pay attention to the details. That's
analytics.
You could see. Yeah, and I analyze. Yeah, analytics. I try not to get too brainy about it, but I do get into the details. So I got to be careful because it takes time, and takes brain energy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I might not have taken steps that are also important because I'm getting a little, a little too fastidious, and I could wear myself out a little bit.
I think though, in general, like we were talking before, and what I mentioned before when I agreed with Josh, is that because I've been picked on plenty of times for that. As you know, I've done a bunch of location sound things. Although I do a lot of mastering, which is in the house, a lot of my stuff is mobile. Like, I'm going to people's houses with my laptop. I'm bringing expensive gear with me. I'm constantly traveling. And everything has to be accounted for, because if one piece is gone, that means a trip to the store. It means money spent. It means it could mean you're losing hours of what you're doing, And if it's a big job, if it's a big contract job like a film, if it's a big enough of a thing, you can get fired, or you could end up even owing money depending upon the object that went missing. So I spend so much time accounting for every little piece of the puzzle all the time. I count the
Mhm.
Me too.
cables 3 times before they go in the bag. I count the cables 3 times when I get home. I count how many memory cards I went with. I'm keeping track of the size of the memory card and everything as it's running. And the few times that I kind of missed doing something like that is when you miss one detail, and like I said before, you might find yourself kind of backtracking and then playing catch up for quite a while. And I feel that the stress associated with the catch up or the fixing could be way worse than the lax time spent sometimes over counting things. Like,
Mhm.
I could put on iTunes and listen to something I haven't heard in years and just kind of, just go over things once or twice. So I'm kind of doing two things at once, but I'm just making sure that everything is where it's supposed to be. And
Mhm.
and it just, yeah, I feel worse when I mess up because I didn't do it. So I would rather lackadaisically and move at a medium pace, put everything in order over and over again, rather than always have that mystery of, oh man, I missed those two dumb things and now I have to do this, I got to do that, I got to do a bunch of free things to make up for it. I have to.
A place for everything and everything in its place.
Yes.
Mhm.
It's
And
just, it's the only way it's the only way to do that, especially when you're traveling and you can lose things, which is not fun. You
yeah, it's
can see
so
the way
much.
that I load the van when I go on the road. I have a system, and I'm crazy. My
Yep.
band thinks I'm crazy because I am, but I try to have systems in place because you don't want to leave your keyboard in some other state that we're not going to go back for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
No.
it's so much better than having to having to face the reality of losing something or not being able to explain something, or like you show up to a
Oh,
client's house and like that looks real professional. You brought two cables instead of three, which we needed. You know, it just
I
Mhm.
always bring four. If I need one, I bring four because
yeah,
I want to
see?
have three backups
Mhm.
It's good to hear that,
because I'm
because
crazy.
no, it's good to hear. So you guys are fastidious in your own ways too. Um, as a, I'm a teacher, so my so as my personality type plus being I believe being a practicing Buddhist and like I'm hyper aware of like every cause I make has an effect in the world. So I'm very careful about causes I make. And I've also been trained through through my Buddhist practice to really, approach each day and each person like brand new, because you don't know if someone lost a family member since last time you talked to them, you know. So I try not to be too casual with
Mhm.
my interactions, even if it's an old friend. Even, I try not to. Of course,
Yeah,
I don't want to be obsessively overly polite. That's ridiculous. But I also just, I'm just trying to. I just hate creating new bad karma. I hate it.
yeah, absolutely. As a
So
good karma goes a long way. You
Mhm.
know.
so I'm extra cautious, and also as a teacher, you want to be the role model too. So I just find like my emails, I'm careful, and then in my there's a lot of work, like you guys are saying, as audio engineers, you have a lot of sort of probably unpaid behind the scenes work, and I do as a teacher preparing things because I also want to teach what I created, and I try not to do things illegally if I can help it, in terms of photocopying other stuff, people's stuff. I'd rather create my own
Right.
stuff. And
Yeah.
so, it creates a lot of work, and I'm like, am I being obsessive? Should I just relax and just do it more, when I was younger? But I don't really. I feel like the way I was when I was a little more lax when I was younger, maybe I was sort of cooler or something, but I didn't feel like I was building a solid foundation for the rest of my life. I feel like I was more willing to be loosey goosey and float around, and I got to build a solid foundation now. 9-year old with a family, so um, who doesn't want to create new bad karma, or careless karma, if you will,
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and Vicky said agreed. Hi, Vicky. And
hey, Vicky.
yeah, Vicky Jones. So yeah, I totally agree with that. You have to kind of keep track of everything and be careful of what you say, what you do. I mean, you're in a lot more of a compromising situation, I think, than me and Josh because you work with a lot more children. So I think in that case, it's always a little more nerve wracking. Um, Things that you do can be taken in different lights. Like I try and pick my battles as far as what I'm super obsessive over.
Hmm.
So I mean, emails and things like that, I'll generally start kind of sterile until I get a feel for the type of person. Because here's the problem too, is that once you create a super business sterile like facade. I'm not going to call it a facade because I know you genuinely you're always thinking more on like a respectable line, definitely than me. But what happens is when one little piece of that comes out in future communications, that doesn't look good when you've always been squeaky clean. So I try and be as human as possible all the
Right.
time and transparent as far as that goes so that people kind of like understand, okay, he's not trying too hard. He's not trying. He'll throw a little joke here or there. So in the case that I do slip, because I make plenty of slips. I mean, you've. I think I've gotten a lot better with the online presence as far as the expletive words, but yeah, I've noticed that with certain things like that. I mean, I don't think Josh. Do you work with like a ton of underage clients, or I don't get many.
I have a few clients that are under like 15, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and you know, I my main thing is make them feel comfortable. Make them. I'm not here to reprimand them. I'm not here to stress them out. I'm not here to make them feel insecure. I'm here to make them feel comfortable so they can get the stuff done. If they sing a line that needs a little work, I say, okay, that was good, but let's try it again, and maybe we'll work on this little thing, and just so that it's a completely constructive way of working without getting egos involved, without hurting anybody's feelings. So I feel like, especially with kids, you have to really, really, you know you have to be somebody that they look up to, and not somebody that's gonna stress them out and scare them away. Because we all have had, as kids, we've all have had experiences with adults. We got yelled at, or we got embarrassed by, or we were put out in front of the class and whatever, singled out. But I find that I try to avoid that, and I just want people to feel comfortable, and um, we all have a collective goal. We just want to get the best stuff that we can do in that day. So
Yeah,
why would you ever make it a bad experience?
yeah, and the
There's no point for that.
the only
Hmm.
reason I highlight that is because I feel with our experiences, that's the one big divide between like what me and Josh do and what you do, John, is that you teach a lot of younger people. And I think it's always good to be cognizant when you're working with somebody that's of a younger age. You realize how much more impressionable you are. And you realize that mistakes can be very big mistakes, as opposed to if you slip an F bomb to an older person, even in a professional setting, a lot of the times maybe they'll cackle or they'll just go, oh, don't say that. But when you do it in front of a kid, it changes the whole light of it. And Vicky actually said that holds true in her industry as well, because she deals with a lot of attorneys and claimants. And she said that they
Hmm.
respond a lot better when you dismantle the pedestal and remind them that you're human.
Yeah, I could see how in each industry that would have a slightly different effect. So maybe in her industry, it might be beneficial to curse a little bit to, let people feel that your humanity, and like we in your position, Lou, as an engineering gig or a sound guy gig, if you just show your humanity and you make some jokes or you curse a little bit here and there, that could with certain people at times. And Josh, I could understand where you're coming from, where you want to support the youth and without being too much of this, too much of that, just trying to like focus on the common goal. One
Yeah.
other So one other thing to add is just that from my perspective, I have that I'm dealing with youth, but another big picture element is parents. That's kind of the bigger thing because
Oh.
because youth is if I do make a mistake, if I curse, I could explain it like sorry, like I'm an older guy sometimes think or whatever. If I just say something out of line, kids are fine. They'll it's because my main thing with kids is just don't be mean. Don't be an asshole. I tell myself, just don't be a jerk. I say it to myself if I'm tempted to like reprimand or be a little too strict. Like just be freaking nice. There's no point ever being mean to people or overly strict. At this point, I know that. But with parents, uh, well, you know how it is. I mean, nowadays with schools, everyone's so anything could be inflammatory, and teachers aren't necessarily respected by and large like they used to be back in the day. So
Hmm.
I mean, I am quite respected by my students. I've earned that. I put myself in that situation, but it's a lot of effort, and you know it's a sensitive society that we live in, so I always have to be cognizant of that, and as well, uh yeah, I don't know, so there's that element to it. I
Yeah.
just that I can, and sometimes I would teach in front of parents. That's not fun. I don't hate it, but sometimes it's good with particular students. But usually it's like the parents' presence is kind of like killing the
It's a
vibe.
damper.
Killing the vibe. Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
intimidating.
yeah. And then my question to the student will sometimes the student won't allow themselves to respond honestly because they don't feel comfortable with an honest response in front of their parents. So then and then I'm like, am I pretending for the parent? Like I feel like I'm acting usually in that case because if I do say the wrong thing, the parents will say, "Okay, done. This guy's not going to be not
Yeah.
the right teacher." But if I just be myself, uh, it's hard because then the kid can't be themselves. So it's a weird dynamic. But you don't want to make the parent feel like they're unwelcome in your room because then they may not trust you. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tricky.
you're under a microscope. You're under a tremendous microscope, and yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate in my lines of work or whatever. I mean, we had that kind of issue on set a lot of the times because one of my prime jobs was to wire people, and when anybody came up that was under the age, of course, the parent had to be there. Um, I was super fortunate to have had dealt with like some pretty good people and pretty good parents, but the kitty gloves go on. You do get a little nervous. You're hoping the parent doesn't see something that they can misconstrue. And then,
Hmm.
it's these days it's pretty quick. You can get thrown out very fast for a very simple mistake or a dumb joke or trying to just ease the mood, and we all know it's easier to slip up when you're trying not to.
Right.
So so
That's when you
I
purposely say dumb things, like wait, no, I didn't want to say
Oh yeah,
that.
because you're just thinking about it, and then sometimes you just say it, and you're like, "Oh my God!" Like I just did what I was trying to think of not to do, but I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I did it, and it becomes this really weird conundrum. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I can see right now how a lot of this stuff is it's taxing to think about that in that position. I don't know what I would do if I were a teacher, especially with younger students. Um, I mean, I'm gonna know very soon. They've been talking about this next opening. We might be homeschooling like 2-3 days a week, and
Yeah.
man, that's gonna be taxing. I'll tell you that. Um,
Hmm.
it's already been taxing. I love my kids, but woo, it's a career I wasn't cut out for. Um,
You're gonna do great, man.
oh man, I,
Yeah. No, you're gonna do fine, but I'm sure it's gonna be it'll be a new challenge. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, like I said, I feel in my and Josh's line, like Josh had already, said basically the same things. I In what we do, it's great to be meticulous because you never have to search for things. You don't have to account for things. it's much better to just spend the effort first and not have to make up for it after the fact.
Yeah. Yes, I agree, and it's good to hear because also as a teacher, like my fastidiousness goes into like if I'm in a gig teaching, I don't want to. I don't want to the student or the parents if they associate, um, you know, their child's experience. I don't want them to feel like it was a waste of time. I have to bring my best, and just bringing my best by bringing good energy to the lesson itself or the class itself sometimes usually is not enough. You got to freaking prepare for it. What does that mean? It means time. It means unpaid time, you know. And but I have to because I want to be a good teacher, you know. There's just sort of no way around it. Like good teachers kind of have to. Yoko said that she thinks teachers are never. It's just assumed that they're not paid with their worth, and that's just the nature of it. And I kind of agree because if I did get paid more, I'm not saying, please teachers don't hate me for this. This is my personal feeling. If I did get paid more, like abundantly as a teacher, I could easily get lazy. Like, well, I'm going to get the money anyway, so why try so hard? You know, so it's more about, I guess the pay aside, regardless of the pay, I just feel like teaching is more than it looks like. If you look like you're teaching an hour or 3 hours, it could be 5. You know, and it seems like that's what you guys are saying too. That even if you're paid to be on set or you're doing a session for 3 hours, there's probably an hour before or after that you kind of also working unpaid just to have everything set up and accounted for and all that.
It goes.
Yeah.
It goes even deeper than that. I was having a conversation with somebody actually, the other day, and they're getting into this industry, of the entertainment stuff, and they were wondering about pricing schemes and things like that. And I told him, I said, you're just kind of dipping your toes in. I said, but one huge thing that most clients don't see or people don't take into account is how much time we spend in what's called deliverables. Deliverables and editing can lock you to a desk for hours and hours. And I mean, it's not like you're like chained to the desk and you can't move, but if you had to go pick up groceries, if you had to, when you're exporting like movies or film, you have to hit that button export. And I mean, if you're mastering an album with 16 tracks, that can keep you on the seat for a good maybe 30, 40 minutes, just letting the computer export. Maybe I'm, embellishing it a little bit because those hours could be really long. But when you deal with a lot of clients and they want revisions, when you count how long you're leaving your computer processing, you can't jump in your car, you can't go take a run somewhere real quick. You have to pay your attention. The hours just add up and add up and add up. And even minor edits to start the computer up, sit back down, open up the project, do whatever edit you have to do, double check it, triple check it, make sure it's really good, then export it again, check the export, then upload it. You're talking about hours that people don't even figure into the equation, right, Josh?
Yeah. And, it's not just a job, it's a career, So, it's almost like, when you're working in a career, you can almost throw the hour, you can almost forget about trying to think about counting the hours on how much you get paid. It's like, because when you're working in a career, you're working, on a life's work, so, at some point you just stop counting by the hour and you start going, what am I going to have to do to make this work? How am I going to, what am I going to have to do to make this right, and make this perfect? The hours almost don't matter, that's the kind of way that a lot of people in this industry get conditioned, as much as we'd like to say, oh, well, if you want me to do this, it's going to cost you X per hour, but really it's going to cost you this, and and we're not going to stop until it's perfect.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because yeah, I'm in a situation. It's just some things have been bothering me lately, and regarding like the fastidiousness. Like I really don't want to be very detailed on my hours and deliverables and how long did it take me to download this and then re-upload that and then back it up. I don't want to count those as hours, but they are, the time I would not, I'd rather do something else. But at
Yeah,
the same time, you feel like charging my rate for that stuff it's not brainless, but it's certainly not the same quality as actually
yeah, that's
performing or teaching or whatever. It's not the same, uh, you know,
yeah, that's why
value.
I mean, that's why a lot of people, smarter, more higher end people in this industry, they make a little padding for themselves. They make a
Hmm.
little, because they know they know it's definitely going to go into overtime, so they give
Yep.
themselves a little padding. They either give the client like a good package rate where they're comfortable and the work can still get done, and be perfect, or um, or they can just charge a rate that they feel comfortable. It's really going to be worth their time, that they will not get distracted and do the best job they can do.
Yeah, because there's no preset amount of hours. In these types of industries, you don't just like wake up and go, okay, I'm gonna work 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock Monday through Thursday, then take Friday off, maybe work Saturday. When a job comes in, you take it. You do that job as much as you have to until the job is done. Um, Things that sound small can end up taking a long time. Things that you would think sometimes you're pleasantly surprised that big things actually go quicker than you thought they were. Like there's so many variables, and the phone goes off at 2 a.m. The phone goes off at 11:30 a.m. The phone goes off at 4:30. Goes off when you're eating dinner. There is there's no clock. There's no unless you throw your phone into a cabinet and lock the cabinet. You're going
You're
off.
working all day. You're
Yeah,
working all day.
and at any point, you can have the whole day off, and then a client, you may have even made a mistake trying to rush because you needed to go to the store, and the client gets back to you an hour later. Oh, you missed this, this, and this. And you're like, oh man. So then you run back. You back at the computer, and it's when I travel, I have a laptop. When I'm home, I'm on the desktop. I bring my iPad Pro to places with me in case I have to do documents. It's just a constant. Like you take a vacation and you might need to bring a computer. It's just you're always susceptible because that's how you make money, and that's how you stay relevant, and by being available. Like
And you're always on call.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
And you know
tricky.
what they say, man, the lazy man works harder. So when you try to cut corners, you work harder and you work more hours and you work later and
Hmm.
you have to deal with um, more correspondence. That's why it's better to be a straight shooter and just try to work together and try to work completely efficiently and direct. Why
Yep.
not?
Yeah, I think that speaks to my how I've been trained to be fastidious is that I feel like I do not want to waste 1 second of my life with someone returning an email about not understanding what I said. That I like you have like almost like arguing through email. That's the worst, right? Like you're like, no, I said that,
Ooh.
or trying to explain yourself through email. It's actually like no. So I'm overly, I don't know about polite's the right word, but I'm detailed, highly detailed in my emails because I just want to be one shot. And and
Yep.
and that's why I'm also extra polite. So I paired it with kindness. It's not a lie. It's like I want to let people know my heart is that I just want this to work, okay, guys? And I'm gonna say nice things so you remember that. And then I give you all the information, and it's been working, but it's tiring, it's draining, to to approach things with that level of sort of attention,
Yes. And
you know.
Vicky actually put up, I don't know if I agree with that 100% pay and incentive laziness. I'm not sure I remember exactly what that's in a response to. And she wrote that I've worked harder the more I'm compensated throughout my career. But I think it's
Yeah.
because it's not a
It's true.
freelance.
It's
Mm,
true. It's true.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
it's
she
always the
was.
ones.
Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
Oh no, no, I was just gonna say that it's always the ones that you're getting beat up on the price are the ones that are going to be the hardest you're going to work anyway.
Oh
you know?
yeah, that's like the worst premonition ever when somebody tries to just beat down the price, renegotiate the hour rate. It's you already know from the beginning, like, okay, this is going to be a ton of work, and it's going to be renegotiated multiple times. Um,
Yeah, I don't like that. I
it's
don't
very
like
scary.
anything like that. But
No.
I think what she was saying is right. I was saying like if I was paid more as a teacher, would it help or not? And I don't know. My personal feelings, I don't know. But she says paid more makes her work harder, and I'm saying I don't know if I got paid more would I work harder? Maybe I would. I just don't know. But I guess the main thing is like what Josh was saying. My spirit is I just got to do my effing best because
That's it.
that's the type of guy I am. So I'm in it for the long haul. I'm in it. I'm a lifer.
And
Okay.
So I can't. You guys know. So I can't make it half-ass. So but
yeah,
then again, it could be a little bit tricky with taking a job if I need to work because I know the quality I want to bring, and maybe not everyone's prepared to pay that. But it's a learning experience. I'm learning how to say no more and what to say yes to and how to do without. How to
So
budget more wisely.
here's the thing. She said he was talking about teaching and making more. I think I think she might have the impression that you're like a public school teacher, not that you're a freelance guitar
Oh,
teacher and
mm-hmm.
writer, which is what really like links John to the work that me and Josh do is that we're freelance and
Mm-hmm.
we're just drifting in the ether and
Mm-hmm.
the opportunities come in and we take them, and if we don't take them, we don't make money. And I think
I
that's where
see.
it's getting confused. It's not out
Yes,
of I
yeah.
think it's out of fear of losing it, she
Yeah,
wrote.
we're in a bit of a different soup here. So yeah, Vicky says that the higher she gets, the more she has to lose. So she works harder because she doesn't want to lose all that she's
Yes.
earned.
Yes, that's where we feel.
Experience. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. So if you know what I earn, you would be shocked. So my life is all about believing in the benevolence of the universe
me too.
and acting that
Wow.
way. That's how I stay afloat, and that's how I'm in the position I'm in. Has nothing to do with
That was deep
it's
what you just
raising the
said.
stakes, you know, in a
Oh,
you know
sense.
we you know we all appreciate working in a field that we love, and we all are fortunate to be able to sustain ourselves. And I'm not saying get rich off. I'm just saying sustain yourselves off doing something that you love, where like the old expression, you don't work a day in your life
if you love
if
what you
you
do.
uh, if you love your job, because your job is fun. I feel
Yeah.
like my job is a ton of fun, and I'm not a bean counter. I have to pay my bills. I have to support my business when I have to get repairs done or upgrades. I have to be able to enjoy my life and take out my family and do stuff like that. But I don't have to live extravagantly. I rather have a job that I love and not live extravagantly than have a job that I hate, and live to work and not work to live.
Hmm.
I'm one of those
Mm-hmm.
guys. I love to work to live, not to live to work. I
Yeah.
don't. I feel like there's a lot of people out there, and I feel like, that's. I'm not saying it's a bad choice. It's a very smart choice when you have a good job and you have a great job where it's super lucrative and stuff like that. But the main thing is like in the end, you have a certain time on this earth, and you have to enjoy it. And if that means that you work in a field you love, and you just scrape by, so be it.
Hmm.
Yeah, and we've all pretty much said the same things. You know, and me and John had to talk. You know, I explained how like growing up, I've had such a crazy fascination with just technology and sound, and just like what can I do with this and what can I do with this, and just constantly tinkering. And like, I feel like if I wasn't working, this is the same type of stuff I'd be talking about anyways. So even
Yeah.
when I have like what most people call a normal job, and then do this on the side, this is what I'm Googling every spare moment at my normal job. And this is what I'm talking about when I get home with friends. And
Hmm.
the same way you said you grew up with your brother just in like a wonderland of instruments. And as long as I've known John, I mean, I met him with a guitar in his hands, and he personifies like a passion for the instrument. And, you know, to us, it's like, it's almost like it's something we'd be doing even if we're not doing it. Like it's just the way we think. It's the way we're wired, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the saving grace in it, because I don't know any normal person in the world that would want to do what any three of us do. That if they hear the
Yeah.
perks, like, you know, the great health insurance, the great hours, you know, great work life balance. It's like our businesses are literally fused into our life. Like
Yeah.
there is no off button. At any moment we have work to do, even if we're not overloaded. It's like, all right, if I do this now, I don't have to do this later, but I got to get it done by X, you know?
Hmm.
And it's just we live and breathe it, and that's the comforting part, is that we get to do something that we're just so some can say infantilely. We're infantilely fascinated with the toys we play with all day long. And that's the good part of it, you know? We don't feel like we're working, but in fact, we might be working a lot more than other people. Um,
Yeah.
just constantly obsessed and stressed out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, man. Like you could have a job where you're spending 40 hours a week or more in kind of in a position where you check in Facebook half the time, right? And not focusing on whatever this fantasy desk job is that I'm making up. But for someone like myself, and I imagine you guys are in a similar position, I work hard almost every single day, and I have very little to show for it in terms of like uh, what people would recognize as the fruit of work, aka money, maybe. Um, but I do have riches around me, and I want for nothing. It's absolutely. I'm not complaining. I'm just trying to describe the unique, weird situation I live in and what I have to, come to terms with all the time and remind myself. Because if I look out and compare myself to others, that doesn't work. That doesn't work at all, right? I have to look, how do I feel? Is my family okay? Am I able to make things work through my faith in my life? That's what it comes down to is faith in my life and in the universe, really. And that somehow my life is just as meaningful as anyone else's. And I want to, like Josh said, we had limited time on the planet. My father died when he was 36 years old. I never forget that. And I've my friend Dave Z died when he was 38 years old. I'm 39. So I know that I could die too anytime, right? And it becomes more real as like it was in my 30s. I was vaguely aware of it in my 20s.
Mhm.
Um, but more aware now, and I'm like, no way. No way am I going to waste the day. So I got to do what I am came here to do, even if it doesn't make any sense to the people around me. Well, my wife has to at least make sense to her to some degree. And my mother, since she's a part of my life all the time. But um, you guys feel me here? Am I just ranting?
Oh,
We're
no, no,
we're
totally.
rewarded by the reality we create, and what we create around us. You know, same reason I told you that without a doubt I would want involvement and to help you do this show. You know, because it gives a positive message. It gives a lot of things to really think about. Um, you know, life is fragile to begin with, and then it just gets more fragile the older you get. And yes, the definite recent course of things that have been going on in the world are making it even more fragile. And I think I think for people like us who live in that very delicate world, like I said, we get great health coverage in the business that we're in. I think that just seeing everything that's going on kind of is raising that awareness to even a higher level. And the funny thing is, we're operating at least on that in living in that weird place of uncertainty, like constant uncertainty, health uncertainty, monetary uncertainty, gig uncertainty. Most people don't even live with that many on a normal day. And now with things that are going on in the world right now, we're even higher than we normally are. Um, so yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, like almost verbatim. Um, Everything is in a very fragile state, and yeah, I mean, if we could do, we're rewarded by the reality we feel we create, and we morph. We're rewarded by helping people, seeing what kind of influence we've had over people. If it's a positive influence, it's incredibly rewarding. Like, I'm so happy to have helped you create this that you can put on your wall. It's not as much as maybe a Rolex watch, but this is you. A Rolex watch, it might be owned by you, but it's not you. And if we help you make that song, if we help you create that type of guitar sound, if we help you find enjoyment in the same things that we do, we're tremendously rewarded by that. And yeah, that's why, like I said, I absolutely love helping you. Good night, baby.
Yeah.
That
So was some
guys,
timing.
I'm kind of fading myself. I don't know if you guys wanted to
bring it to a wrapping close.
I don't know if you guys want to do this again real soon, because we can talk like this for hours, man.
True. Yeah, we'll definitely be knocking on your door again soon, Josh.
Well, that was so
So,
much fun. Thanks so much for letting me come on your show, and it just goes to show that we all have passion and we all have drive and we have a good time, and I hope that everybody can find something in their life where they can feel as strongly committed to and happy about as we do about music. And just, I feel like music is a big part of therapy for us, and I hope we can shed some light on how it could help them too.
yeah, thank you, Josh. And I asked this question of Lou to end it last time, and I'll ask you, or somewhere in the interview, um, what words of encouragement could you give people who are feeling pretty down these days, feeling a little bit lost, feeling like the world is out to get them, or just, generally stuck? Because I could see, you have a buoyant attitude, and maybe you can, just in general, to someone who might need some words of encouragement.
I would say find a list of things that make you happy and try to do them every day while staying productive and growing as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
So in my case, it's all about working on some new tech, or in integrating newer systems into my workflow, or just going on YouTube and watching funny videos. I mean, it's all part of my life. I like to go outside. I like to go to the beach. I feel like there's no reason why you shouldn't be living your best life and the life you want to live. And if you have a stressful job, fine, but leave the negativity at the door. And when you go home, or when you go out with friends, enjoy the time you have with them, because it's the best time you're ever going to have in your life.
Yeah. The Smashing Pumpkins song I heard yesterday as I was jogging. Today is the greatest
Day
Yeah, I
you've
love that
ever
song.
known.
Love that song.
If you have that attitude, that's a good attitude to have.
I mean, dude, it's the only thing that makes me happy, that I know that tomorrow's going to be a good day. I might have some hurdles. I might have some anxiety. I might have some stressors, but overall, it's going to be a good day. It's going to be fun.
I might
Sweet,
have
man.
some anxiety.
Yes, I might too.
It's almost like that's there before I wake up.
You wake up and you go, oh.
Yep. I'm just like,
I do sometimes. So Josh and Lou, real quick, where can people find you if they want to contact you? What's a good website or whatever?
For me, you can go to salantsound.com, SALANT sound.com, or you can go on Facebook, Josh Salant, or YouTube, Josh Salant. And if anybody wants to come hang out in the studio, you're more than welcome. If you want to see the studio, or if you want to talk about a project, or if you want to just go out and pig out to Roll and Roaster, that sounds great too. So give me a buzz.
And are this is mainly for people who live in Brooklyn or people all over the country?
Anybody. I do, I do a remote work. I do, I have friends all over the country that I try to see. So it goes for anybody, if you're having computer issues or you're having studio issues, give me a call, because maybe we could figure out what the problem is and we could fix it together. And I can definitely learn from you as well. So let's get connected and try to help each other out and make our problems disappear and our fun escalate and go through the roof.
Yes, let's expand this circle of friendship here.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you, Josh. And Lou, you want to give a shout out of where people can find you? Remind us.
I'm gonna have a lot in construction, especially of recent things. I think I've partially updated you. I know I've told Josh a lot of things recently, so a lot of the social media is gonna be overhauled and stuff like that. Right now, my non-updated website, which I think I updated maybe a year ago, is www.louislarocco.com. So just my name after the W's and before the com. That'll bring you to something that's going to get updated very soon. As far as my podcast, it's going to be under the Camarilla Cafe, Camarilla, and that should be launching in the next week or so, hopefully. And
nice.
And yeah, I have a lot more stuff in store very soon. So if anybody's interested, just contact me on Facebook or the Camarilla Cafe on Facebook, and yeah, we'll have a chat.
Good.
Well, thank you guys so much.
All right, cool. So I guess we're wrapping this for a close. Yeah, you're welcome, Josh, and thanks, Lou, for hosting, and thanks, Josh, for sharing your wisdom and your good vibes with us.
I love you guys.
Thanks
Always
for
great to
having me.
hang out with you guys.
And yeah, we'll do this again sometime, I believe. And I will be doing a different style podcast on Tuesday afternoon with Tom Scuderi, 3 p.m. Eastern, if people want to watch that. And guys, look for the Camarilla Cafe, and go check out Salant Sound Studios. All right, everyone. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to reconnect again. And have a good night, Lou, Josh, everyone out there.
You too. Good night.
All right, take care, guys.